What is up, Friday Nighters? Welcome back to another episode of Just Another Friday Night. I am one of your hosts, CM Chuck, and your other host across from me, Double A Adamantium Adam.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Guys, sorry that we're super late. We're here. I see we got a comment in already through the YouTube. I don't know how that's happening. That's pretty cool. But our good friend Big Ken over with Maybe I'm Tripping. I looked for y'all last week, Ken, and I saw y'all weren't on. Are you guys on this week? And if you can hear me or you can see me, let us know how did you do that? It's cool. I see the comment comes from your YouTube. And we weren't even on yet, so that's pretty awesome. So yeah, Rizzo in the house. Rizzo says, "What's up?" I think some of our night owls might show up tonight. Double A. Sometimes we go on later, and it ends up being a benefit. Ken says he was out of town last week. Okay, cool, man, cool. Well, I'm glad you're here now, man. If you get to watch and hang out for a little bit, cool. If you got to get to recording, then I hope you have a great show, and I will definitely be listening later on in the week. I'm gonna throw a question at you, Ken, for your next episode. Is it okay for another woman or another man to scratch your significant other's back? Double A says no. I think I'm going to agree and say no. I wouldn't let anyone else scratch my lady's back, nor I'm pretty sure she would let anybody scratch mine. So, is it one of those it's too intimate things? I think it might be. I might be. Jason in the house, he said, "What's up, bros? What's up, Jason? I did not forget the beer, brother. Maybe that's what caused us to be late, but hard to say." Kara says, "Do you ask me to scratch your back all the time?" Yeah, but that's more like do me a favor. You know what I mean? So I love Ken. Need context. I don't know if there's any more context other than my back is itchy.
If Jess said, to some really handsome guy that she doesn't know, like, "Hey, can you scratch my back?" I'd be like,
Yeah. See, I think maybe what Ken means, though, is like under the shirt or over the shirt. It's always got to be.
I don't think it matters.
You never want to see anyone putting your hands under someone else's shirt.
If your lady is going like this, I'd be like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
But at the same time, though, you might ask your mom or your sister to scratch your back, like, "Oh, I got an itch.
Okay,
get my scratch." I know, right? I know. That's one of those things, right? Ken had a good segment on one of his episodes where it was about, like, they were talking about some rapper, I guess, that, like, kissed his mom on the mouth. And, like, some people kiss their mom on the mouth, but not like a Frencher, like you're just like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, where Tom Brady got all that shit, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's his kid, man. Like, like, I know they're boys and stuff like that, but it's just one more reason for people to, rank on Tom and shit like that. But I was like, you know what I mean? Like, that's. I used to have an aunt that liked to kiss me on the mouth, and I didn't like it on my dad's side, and I'd be like, wow, I'm trying to avoid it, like, but always because her mouth too is like kind of like. It was like wet. Like I was like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like I don't kiss my mom on the mouth. You know what I mean? But I don't even like when the dog kisses me on the mouth. So I'm weird. But I like how I started something up. Here we go. Right? Double the Rizzo's like, no, that's a big no. Yeah. And he says, and then she's like, ooh, harder. To the guy scratching the back. What the fuck is going on here? I don't know, but I'm also a guy that will like lift my shirt up on like a sharp corner and like rub my. Dude, we got hard water in San Antonio and in Texas, man. It's like makes for dry skin. No fun. Yeah. Double A, how was your week, brother? Tell me about it.
Cold, super cold. I work in a warehouse. It's not climate controlled, so just freaking cold. I'm cold from 7 in the morning all the way to 5:30 at night. So
I know you hate that. I know your brothers and Jack are big fans of the cold. It's like
until you actually work in it, then you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, none of them do. So yeah, easily. Oh, Jerry D in the house. Jerry says finally got the little one to sleep. What's up? What's up, Jerry? We just got on, man. We haven't gotten into the topic yet, man. But I do have your comments. If you have to hop off, I plan to read them. Jerry had some great input and great insight onto tonight's topic, which we're going to get to in a second here. Before we do, though, let me say a quick thank you to our friends over at Tis the Podcast. Guys, these guys are alongside Jerry D and Totally Rad Christmas, probably the premier Christmas podcast out there in Christmas podcasts. They're fantastic. The elves Anthony, Tom, and Julia had the really great distinction of getting to come on one of their recent shows. Again, you might say, why were you on a Christmas podcast in February? But they keep Christmas alive 365 days a year.
It feels more like Christmas this month than it did in December.
It sure does. I think we wore shorts for Christmas here in San Antonio.
Yeah, we did.
And it's feeling pretty Christmassy right now. But you love Christmas year-round, right, Double A? The spirit of it?
I'm
you know
fine
what I mean?
with it, yeah.
Yeah, but the reason why they brought me on is because they talked Spider-Man. And
Nice.
they used that loose, hey, there's some Christmas in it. So it's Christmassy enough,
Yeah.
So I love that. And then I got almost a back-to-back distinction because right after we did our Peacemaker episode last week on their Patreon, they covered the Peacemaker.
Yeah.
So as low as $1 a month, you can subscribe to their Patreon and get some additional content, which includes now me talking all things Peacemaker right after I just talked Peacemaker on our show. So it was like a lot of Peacemaker talk, which was great. I finished up the podcast, the companion podcast. It went episode by episode. It was coming on right after the episodes.
Okay.
And it was really great. And it was so funny they call it the podcast Podly because he's like, you got a daughter named Daughtery?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But it had good interviews with Cena, James Gunn twice, and
Nice.
pretty much all the rest of the cast. But go give a listen, guys, to Tis the Podcast. Join their Patreon so you can hear our Peacemaker episode and hear Anthony struggle with saying Adebayo.
Oh, yeah.
He got a lot of Abadayos in there, and I was like, I started questioning myself midway. I was like, "Am I saying it wrong?" But luckily, Jerry D kept us honest and going there. So, yeah, guys. But yeah, please go check out Tis the Podcast.
Yeah,
They're
there you go.
fantastic.
Jason had the perfect answer for your question. He goes, "Get a back scratcher." There you go.
I actually own several, and that's usually what I go to because I'm like, you know what, I need this, and sometimes I can't even get my gal to turn over in bed to scratch my back, so I need the back scratcher on the side of the bed anyway. So I'm itching right now talking about back scratching. It's just not good. And Jerry, I do hope your little one feels better. I know you said she was not feeling well,
okay.
so we're do some prayers for health for her for sure, man. I know you said strep, and that's no fun.
Yeah, and then it is definitely colder up there.
Yeah,
where Jerry's at.
Yeah, and Anthony, one of the elves from Tis the Podcast, is in New York, so he was like, he's like, it's
the blast.
He actually said it was 70 yesterday there in New York.
Okay.
He goes, they're expecting it to snow this weekend, and I was like, whoa, that's extremes. So yeah, Jerry mentioned the tiny piece of Christmas in Spider-Man for sure. It's quite a bit. Yeah, definitely, man. We appreciate you, Jerry, and I'm gonna, Dan, if you have to hop off for any reason at all, I'm gonna get to those comments for sure. But hopefully you'll stick around live for those. Let's get to some stuff. First of all, speaking of Peacemaker, I want to thank Double A in person for this awesome piece right here. Who knows what this is? I know Jerry D probably does, but if you're out there in comic book world, name this first appearance right here. Man, this might be like one of my first books with Darkseid on the cover,
right.
believe it or not. I don't think I own any. But yeah, man, this is gorgeous thing. Double A, I appreciate it.
I had picked up Suicide Squad issue 1,
which is also great. It looks like a mystery movie.
It does.
You know,
I love that. I love that title. I love the heading. Those 8 people will put their lives on the line for the country. One of them won't be coming back.
And I can recognize like dead shots up here, right?
Yeah.
And then, we popped the mic a little
But
bit.
after that, though, I don't know who the hell are these. But I was saying CM, that's just James Gunn. He's just really made me a big fan of the whole Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So.
I brought you up several times saying that. I said, man, you said a lot of things on our episode that was like, shit, I didn't think about that, but that's true. It's like we are looking at like, Ratcatcher 2, Polka Dot Man, and the Suicide Squad, and then we are watching a whole Peacemaker show, Vigilante, who I learned on the show I did with Tis the Podcast that Vigilante was a reoccurring character in the Arrowverse.
Yes, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So I did find out he's an old character from the Teen Titans. So
yeah, let's see here. Jerry says modern Suicide Squad, yes, and it's also Amanda Waller's first appearance. Jerry. Maybe I'm tripping, which is Big Ken says, where else are you guys streaming? I only see my comments. We're also streaming on Facebook. Ken, that's primarily where we kind of get our viewers. I know you always, you get people on Twitch, and I know you tell them to hop over to YouTube. But we don't get many of our viewers through the YouTube aspect, although we put it on there. We get ours mostly through the Facebook Live. So if you feel free, come and join us on Facebook Live. The page is the same name, Just Another Friday Night, or if you want to join our Facebook group, The Friday Night Faithful, it streams in there as well. But I would say you're probably better off in the other one. But yeah, there's a few comments in here. Ken said we want to see him come over and join us on Facebook Live. Um, yeah, but what else? Oh, let's talk about these.
Yes.
We want to say a huge thank you to our friends over at Now Watch This, mainly
Our friends slash ratty
opponents. But this isn't even about Now Watch This. This is about Lucky the Dirt Dad, and more specifically, 3leggedrabbit.com. I got to see Lucky earlier in the week over at Hobby Lobby, actually, and he was bringing us a really cool gift. And we need to bring that up, right? Double A, since that's that going on. He had these awesome shirts made up for us. You can get this one at 3leggedrabbit.com. But boom, the pro podcasting t-shirt right here. Looks like the old 80s wrestling.
Yeah. As our
Read it, Double A. I'm going to get it closer in here.
Pro podcasting, CM Chuck and Double A hosts. And that has our JAFN, and our logo of the podcast.
I can almost hear the 8-bit music. Ding, ding, ding,
big
ding.
time.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, huge thank you for these, Luck. We planning to wear these guys on March 12th. You guys know everything that went wrong for us going up to Rolling Oaks Mall and doing the event with Oscar and Wrestle Shop. So he's I think going to be running wrestling shows every 2 weeks now. And I reached out to him since we didn't get to have our table that we had paid into that time because of COVID. He ran the show still, but we had COVID going on with us, and we didn't think it was a good idea for us to be out there potentially exposing people. So we did the responsible thing and had to cancel. But he was gracious enough to move our table to his next event, which would be this one. So he said, come on out. So yeah, we're going to have some great stuff out there. We'll be wearing those shirts. We're going to have some giveaways. I think Double A is going to be selling some of his collection. For cheap, it's going to just be fun. We want to hang out with you guys. We want you guys to come by and subscribe. Maybe we're going to do, I'm pretty sure we are going to do a raffle and be raffling off some wrestling comics that are provided to us by Authority Comics, Mario Delgado. They're really, really awesome covers, man. And if you guys want to see them, you guys got to come out there and see them. I'm going to have some other swag, too, for free. Some Just Another Friday Night stickers and maybe some other great stuff that we purchased through Amazing Annie and Deuces Mercado. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll put up a banner and a picture and stuff like that. Probably now. We just hadn't had it confirmed yet, but we got it confirmed now that we will be at Rolling Oaks Mall on March 12th. Brought to you by Wrestle Shop. I'm not sure if he's calling it something or not. But
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, it's the wrestling shop. It's Oscar at the wrestling shop at Rolling Oaks Mall. So
yeah, he's a great guy, really funny, man. I seen him he inserted himself into his own battle royal and stuff like that. And I'm like, I wonder if Oscar has formal wrestling training, because I wouldn't just get in the ring with guys that did. You know what I mean? I've had that experience and it wasn't all fun. So. Oh, there's Big Ken. Ken says, boom, views, guys, at watching on both. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Awesome. Comment as you at will. Big Ken, are you recording tonight? Will there be an episode of Maybe I'm Tripping tonight? Or will that be till later? I hope it's I want to pronounce her name right. It's Joya, right? It's Joya. I hope she's okay. She's a fantastic co-host you have there, man. Anything in the world of pop culture news, anything like that this week, Double A? I feel like, man, we're kind of in a dry spell. I call it a dry spell, right? Because Boba Fett ends, Peacemaker ends, and we're waiting on and Batman's next week, so it's a minor dry spell here.
Yeah, I know Good Morning America has been interviewing the cast of the Batman. Mm-hmm. I saw Paul Dano's interview yesterday. Nice. That was really interesting. I can't wait. So,
you think we'll move the show next week? What are you thinking? How are we going to do it?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to see it on a Thursday or Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to likely buy tickets this weekend, but I don't know what day for. Yeah. My sister probably won't. My nephew wants to go, and she probably won't let me buy them for a Thursday because he has school the next day.
Yeah, of course.
But if not, if everyone can wait,
it's going to be a long movie, I believe. So.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe Friday or maybe potentially, maybe if not Saturday. But I'll let you know. We'll let all of you know if we're going to move the time of the show and the day of the show. I always feel like you're out of frame there a little bit, Double A.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah. Also, we're kind of we got a lot of head space above us. See our cool shirts if you do it like that. Oh, Ken, you said that she is sick tonight. Well, we hope that she gets well also soon. Ken, prayers for health for her. What else? I don't think we didn't have too much.
Well, I just saw that the Spurs won tonight,
Yes.
so
Those
Pop
Spurs
is
go.
1 win away from tying the record. So
With Don Nelson.
Lenny Wilkins.
Oh, Lenny Wilkins. Really?
No, it should be Don. It should be Don
I was gonna say, I thought it was
because he
Don.
just passed it up. I read it on ESPN. I said Lenny Wilkins, but he already passed Lenny Wilkins. It should be Don Nelson.
I don't remember Lenny winning that many of those Hawks years.
He is the. I believe that one time he was the winningest and losingest coach. So I mean that tells you something.
Whoa, that's a double distinction.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So
great job, Jerry. Don't ever root for the Mavericks.
But he's 1 win, I think, from tying and 2 from breaking. So
awesome,
man. Just
awesome.
two more for Coach Pop.
You got to look for the good things in the squad right now.
And
Root for that.
I mean, the Spurs are doing good. I mean, considering, Lakers are blowing balls right now, and they're supposed to be the big super team. So
yeah.
I can't even name a team on the West on the East besides the Bucks that are doing well. So
yeah. Ken, are you it's the Hornets though, right? New Orleans is the Hornets.
New Orleans.
New Orleans fan, Ken, out there, just curious.
It's funny, right? Because there were New Orleans Jazz, but then they took it with them to Utah. I'm like, Utah Jazz. There's no Jazz in Utah.
No, there's not. Yeah,
I was like,
it should have definitely been. Yeah, New Orleans Jazz was perfect.
It was. Yeah, it was. I'm like, don't take it with you to Utah.
I don't think about Jazz. I think about Utah.
No one does.
Jerry says, I know I should while I'm up here, but I can't do it. No, you shouldn't, Jerry. You don't switch teams just because you move. You keep them in your heart. Or you just team hop like I do with football, so that's different, though.
It was All-Star Weekend, though, this weekend. I did not see the game. We
Me
did
neither.
see the skills challenge on Saturday.
How were the dunks?
Man, they were bad. They were terrible.
I didn't hear anything about it. That's how bad
terrible.
It was.
But it was cool because David was a judge. David Robinson, he was a judge, so that was pretty cool.
And I saw that great scene. I put it in our group where he goes up to DJ.
Yeah.
That was awesome, right? That we had an All-Star there.
And not just that, but, Dave, Tim, and George made it to the NBA All-75, the 75 greatest players. So 3 Spurs.
That's great. That's
so
fantastic.
That's awesome.
Their skills are undeniable, man. I love watching those guys.
Yeah.
Ken says Saints, but a Celtics fan. Okay. All right. By the way, I root for the Patriots, so I'm also up there. We can relate to Boston in that note. So, yeah, I get you.
It's funny. I was watching Cheers on Hulu, and they're all Boston Red Sox, New England Patriots.
That's right. Yeah,
on the first episode, they mentioned the draft, the New England Patriots. They drafted defense, and they're like, "Why the hell are we drafting defense for?"
Oh shoot! Well, who would have been their QB in that time? Testaverde?
No. I forget the guy's name. No, you know what? No. That second-year quarterback led them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
in those
they did,
years.
but they got demolished by the Bears.
Yeah,
the '85 Bears. They got demolished.
Man, if you use them in Tecmo Bowl in the '91 one, they suck.
Yeah. It just wasn't a good time to be a Boston Red. Well, Boston Red Sox was still a good team in that. They didn't win, but they were a good team.
Yeah.
New England, you can say they were all right. They went to the Super Bowl, like I said, in '85. So they had some success. So.
That was in the pre-Bills before the monster Bills.
Before the Bills took over.
Yeah. Jerry says Cheers was a great show. Absolutely. I have a cool cup. A glass mug that Albert Olivares, Friday Nighter Albert, that got me when he went up to see. He was a big Red Sox fan.
Nice.
He went to the actual real Cheers and got it to me. I didn't know there was an actual one, but there is an actual Cheers in.
Okay,
Boston,
okay,
so
cool.
It's pretty cool.
I watched a few episodes. Yeah, it's fucking funny.
Yeah, man, great show.
On Hulu. So.
Nice. Let's see. Drew says the Jazz. Jason says,
the famous Utah Jazz.
Yeah. Jason says, "How's Mario doing?" Last we checked, he was
good.
well, man.
Yeah, and Rick from Crypt Comics have been doing well. They've been going all over I guess some of the Texas scene a little bit here and there. They've been to New Braunfels, I think, and Dripping Springs.
And,
had a show here. So they've been turning up. So
they're doing some small cons, I think. So that's pretty cool for them.
Yeah, so they're getting out. Mario's doing well. He's doing very well. So
I think that might be Steve watching us from the group. He says, "Cheers, guys! Cheers, Steve!
Cheers!"
And cheers to anybody else getting their drink on. Ken, I know you drink on your show. If you're drinking, what are you drinking tonight? Jerry, Tecmo Bowl was a fantastic game. Super Tecmo Bowl, that's my favorite one, Jerry. The official teams were on there. I always say I'll challenge anyone with those Bills because that was my team at the time, and that
killer.
I used on that game. Although Jim Kelly's name wasn't on it, so they called him QB Bills because they didn't. There was a thing at that time, there was 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were they were this little quarterback club, and so they didn't like let the names get used. Oddly enough, I don't think Belichick lets them use his name in the modern games.
Really?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Like you'd think like Madden would be like the ultimate, right? I mean,
coach to coach respect.
Yeah,
too, right?
big time.
I don't know what to do.
Scotch tonight, guys.
There you go. That's definitely Steve. Steve, I had a little bit of whiskey earlier, and I had some last night too. Because another reason we're late is because I've been working a shitload of overtime, and work is hell. So it's like right now, it's like, man, it's really kicking our ass. So yeah, Jerry says, yeah, I remember that. Good stuff, Jerry. I don't know, Double A, what do you think? Let's just get right into it, right?
Let's get into it,
yeah, guys. I mean, it's late, so we don't want to bury the lead, too much here. But we'll get right into what our topic is going to be tonight. Guys, we've been doing a lot of shows, covering a lot of comic book shows, because there's been a lot of shows to cover, a lot of Star Wars, Star Wars shows. It's been all kinds of shows.
Shows up our alley that we love,
Yeah, and if we don't cover them quickly, then
you're never going to find us doing Grey's Anatomy or CSI or NCIS or Law and Order.
Maybe the X-Files.
Maybe the X-Files, because that's more right up our alley.
yeah, the world of sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, the Law and Order family branch, we're probably never going to do those. The NCISs, we're never going to do those. CSI, no, probably not.
Go listen to the Morbid True Crime podcast if you like that. We'll give props to them. So those aren't our thing. But we wanted to get to we did talk about stuff that was our thing. We had Spider-Man, we had Hawkeye. Yeah. We were behind because of COVID.
Yeah, real bad.
Cobra Kai. We got caught up, and then we got hit with Book of Boba Fett, Peacemaker, which we probably didn't have thought we were going to do a whole episode on, because we don't give whole episodes to just anything, and we were like, we got to talk about this. Yeah. So great talking about that stuff. And again, we don't really necessarily keep an order, but sometimes we try to mix it up between movies and TV and
it's just everything comics. Just kind of bombarded like at the same time. So
yeah, but tonight, and this was your great idea, Double A, and I loved it, man. And it caused me to look more into the gentleman and see more about him and hear more about him in interviews. And of course, I'm a big, longtime fan of his art. I probably own some of it and probably have looked at it more than I did look at the name at the front. And I realized, you know what I mean. But the incomparable Mr. George Pérez. I know he preferred it. I don't think he prefers Pérez or whatever, because we watch an interview, they call him Pérez, and he likes it like that. So, Puerto Rican native, right? Well, family is Puerto Rican.
Descent, yeah. So he was born in New York, here in New York. So back in December, the comic book world got kind of shook when he announced that he had stage 4 cancer. That it's inoperable, and he's only going to have 6 to 12 months to live. It shook up the industry. I mean, people came out with like so many tweets, so many like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, just it was a head shaker. I mean, it was like, oh wow, he's a complete giant. Probably, I don't know, maybe if one of the top 3 artists of the '80s for sure. One of the most bankable names. Like, he was that guy. He was kind of like the Jim Lee, from the 80s. If how Jim Lee was in the 90s. When he stamped Jim Lee's name on something, it the sales go up.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the way it was with George. With George here. I mean, God, just a giant. When everyone heard this, it was just like an outpouring, just a great outpouring. I mean, there's really no one has ever said anything bad about this man.
Right.
It's just all good things, all kind of shock and disbelief.
Yeah.
And we just kind of wanted, while he was alive, kind of say thank you. It's an appreciation show. It's a thank you to, I mean, this is me and CM's true home, the comic book realm. This is our home. We loved it. We've been reading since we're small, all the way to now. And yeah, I mean, it's just, this is something that we like to. We've done this kind of episodes for Frank Miller and Jack Kirby, so we're like, well, we can do this with George Pérez.
Absolutely, too. Because the man has the body of work for it. We have a really great story I think we'll do at the end. I hope you'll tell that story at the end. Okay. I love that. Yeah. Jason says good night. Good night, Jason.
Good night, Jason.
Thank you for staying and waiting up late, brother, to come on. We do appreciate that. Man, but again, like, right away, what comes to mind for me is like JLA Avengers. You know what I mean? Because that was like, it was after the DC versus Marvel crossover, and I'm just so used to seeing this guy related to like these big,
huge events.
And and then also too the imagery of like these big panels with like tons of characters.
You're just looking everywhere. You kind of stop reading, and you just kind of you're looking at the pictures real quick to see like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, look over here. Look over here.
Just those covers. That like that first cover, and it's like every Avenger, everyone that's ever had the title, which we know is a bunch. Everyone that's ever been called the Justice League member, and it's a bunch. So you're like, wow, like this is like a lot of freaking characters, and that's something neat to see, and you don't really see that.
You really don't see a lot of artists trying to tackle that kind of stuff, but from the interviews we saw and everything that we learned is like he loves that.
Yeah,
he's like, give me everyone to draw, give me everything. I want to draw everyone. I want to say I at least drew this person once, So that was like his whole thing was just to give me that book, give me that big, So yeah,
absolutely, man. Let me see here. Jerry says, definitely shocking. Perez and Byrne, two of my faves from the late Silver, early Bronze Age. He also says, JLA Avengers is still one of my favorites. Some of the interior layouts are just perfection.
I mean, and even just that one, like how you said, issue 4, it really became like the iconic cover of Superman.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, right?
Looking like he's been through some shit, and he's holding up, Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer. That really became like an iconic image. And drawn by the man, and that was like I think that one was 03, I think. So I mean, even in the 2000s, the man was still producing very high art, even in that time period.
Yeah, and there's the cool story too about how like that was meant to be something earlier on, but
it
didn't get off the ground.
Yes, because it was during the 80s, at the height of the rivalry between Marvel and DC. I mean, it's hard to get two companies ever that are rivals to work together.
Right.
So
you don't see Pepsi and Coke doing something together. You don't see McDonald's and Burger King coming out with a burger together. You know what I mean?
It's always just little jabs here and there.
Jerry, and I know you are here with us, but I did want to read some of the earlier comments you had sent me when you thought you weren't going to be on. Jerry said, George Pérez is awesome. Love when he did a commission for the dude from Comic Book Men when his basement flooded. Oh, that's so right. That was a great episode.
Yeah, I think Jerry posted that on our group.
Yeah. I do remember that was awesome. I forgot about that episode, Jerry. I didn't get to see the group yet. I haven't even checked our social media because of work and trying to get over here. And then also, again, Jerry mentions JLA Avengers is also amazing. We just talked about that, and that his work with Marv Wolfman on Titans was groundbreaking.
Legendary, yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, right? AA Titans, I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans. And you loved it so much, you watched the show, which is streaming on HBO Max. And it's pretty much based all on Marv Wolfman and George Pérez' stuff. New Teen Titans, these, DC for a long time, bad or good, whatever you want to say, really only focuses a lot. We say this so much. Really only focuses really on Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. And not even Wonder Woman a whole lot. It's just really Superman, Batman. Yeah. That sometimes you're just like, if anyone can make a star, hey, cool. So, Marv Wolfman, George Pérez take this group, this new Teen Titans with Robin in the lead. And, man, it strikes a chord with the audience. It becomes so big, it actually does become DC's biggest selling title. It outsells Superman, it outsells Batman, everything, Green Lantern,
I think
everything.
Even Justice League.
It became to that point where it was a rival to X-Men, which was crazy. Because it was like X-Men was the book by Chris Claremont, what Jerry said, John Byrne. The other, the other big two. The big two for Marvel, the big two for DC. It was like, man, Marv Wolfman, George Pérez, they were just dominating. They were knocking off these titles. It was appealing to a younger crowd, and man, it's such a legendary run. It's one of those runs that you always hear about. It's kind of like the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four run, Chris Claremont, John Byrne, X-Men run, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko run, on Spider-Man. It's one of those runs, one of those just legendary runs, And
out of that, we get great characters like that, and then, look, if you're a young person, like my nephew even, he's 8, but he knows the Teen Titans, of course, from, Teen Titans Go and the Teen Titans cartoon. Yeah. That's how popular those characters were.
That franchise is still going.
Yeah, and the characters that we got that were created by Pérez were like Cyborg, Starfire, Raven. Starfire. I became a huge Raven fan after the show that I'm watching, the Titans show.
They transform, Dick Grayson, Robin into Nightwing. Yes. And starts off that whole new, chapter in that, Dick Grayson's
also
character.
fan favorite. excuse me, Deathstroke,
right?
Yep.
Slade Wilson.
Without Slade Wilson, we don't get Wade Wilson. We know
Wilson.
Everyone loves Deadpool. I know, like Rizzo is a huge Deadpool fan. So I mean, what a great character! What a great looking character! The half mask, the orange. Mm-hmm. And then I love the story. In the show, he's played by Isai Morales.
Yes,
who does a great job. You know what I mean? So
if you don't know, maybe if you're from San Antonio, he plays Bob in La Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
But he looks good as an older dude.
And you saw him in I think both versions of the Justice League. Just a brief glimpse of Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello, yes.
And you're saddened by the Snyderverse because you're like, that's a fucking cool looking guy, and we didn't get that anymore of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead we get shit Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Man, that's terrible. Yeah, and he would have been better as the Alexander Luthor than Lex Luthor. But and that's a whole other topic.
Or just
if you want to hear our thoughts on that, go back to our Justice League episode.
Yeah, or just crushed by a falling building would have been good for me.
Yeah, that would have been good too. But the run is so legendary, and Marv Wolfman is such a great writer. And then you put him in with George Pérez, who's just great artist, great fantastic artist. I know they won a lot of awards. They had a best story for the Judas Contract, which is, that story which takes place with Nightwing's first appearance. It's called the Judas Contract.
Yeah.
Very famous story. They won an award for that. He won awards for best artist, for best inker. So
there's also a one of their DC animated movies called the Judas Contract.
Yes.
I hadn't seen it yet, but Lucky the Dork Dad actually gave us a free copy when my nephew saw him.
You should check it out because it has that.
My dad watched it and he was like, "This is a badass movie." He was like, "Have you watched this one yet?" And I said, "No, Dad, but it's cool. You keep the disc because I can stream it or whatever." But he was like, "No, you got to watch it now." Like, it's so good. And I haven't had a chance to watch it because I'm backlogged on shit to watch. I'm trying to get him to watch Peacemaker. But
I'm surprised your dad doesn't want to see that one. It's
everything he says is what we say. Man, he looks fucking stupid.
I know,
and, man, what's that dumb helmet? And I'm like, I know. And then he really is. I'm like, man, he fucking killed Flag. You know what I mean? I was like, I know. I was like, all the things you're saying are all the things we said. But all true. Let me see what Jerry said here. Good stuff, man. Last night this happened to us, and we went on a tangent after Peter. But Jerry also says. Definitely shocking regarding the news with Paris. I think I might have read that already. Yeah, sorry about that, Jay.
He goes, they snuck in a reference to that earlier crossover pitch in the 2003 story. Oh, okay,
nice,
cool.
Nice.
He says, I did like that X-Men Teen Titans crossover. I mean, at that point, that was like the height of both X-Men and Teen Titans.
Yeah, and it's kind of too like the youth, right? Like the two youths of the universe.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So I dig that big time. Jerry says, Deathstroke. And then he says, Richie!
And it was funny because Deathstroke actually was called Deathstroke the Terminator. And he even has his own solo for it was like a miniseries, but it had Deathstroke the Terminator. And I was like, that's weird. And I checked it out. It's before Terminator, too. So I was like, holy shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, so...
The cool thing about the way Isai Morales played it is they didn't lean into any at all of his Latino heritage or whatever.
No, because he's great in Ozark, and you really don't hear that too much.
Okay, another Ozark guy. We need you and Luck to talk Ozark. Luck loves Ozark, and he wants me and Joe to watch. But but what I did like was the military aspect. That he was like he was a dad, and he was a military guy, and he was just it was the whole thing where it's like you either get a Frank Castle or you get the guy that goes the other way, which Frank goes pretty extreme, but is still kind of a good guy, anti-hero. But then you have a guy like Deathstroke that just becomes like this, well, I'm going to use all the shit I know and become like a merc. You know what I mean? So, pretty interesting. Really cool character. Mm-hmm. But again, all this we don't get without George Pérez. You know what I mean?
And even before the new Teen Titans, he started on a run with Avengers. That's pretty lauded too. It's a pretty well received run that he was a part of. Again, he had won awards for that run. He won for favorite cover. And it's a cool looking cover. It's like issue Avengers 185. It's a really cool cover. It's Quicksilver and Wanda on the cover, but the cover is black, but it looks pretty damn cool. It looks like he knows something big is coming. So,
nice.
Yeah, so after that's when he moved to DC, and he was hoping to really be the Justice League inker.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I just did the Avengers. I would really love to get my hands on the Justice League. Mm-hmm. But obviously, it landed into Teen Titans, which even though he was probably like, man, I really want to do Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Teen Titans is really where he makes his mark and really helps establish that book.
So part of my research was I was like, I went to go hit up some pods and see, like, okay, who's done an interview with them, or what did they have out there? And the first one that came up that was big was, Rob Liefeld, the Rob Observations, and man, he pretty much just gushes. And I didn't get all the way through it, but the stuff I heard, man, just not only the stuff about him as a titan in the industry, pun intended.
Yes.
Deservedly so.
Yes.
But him as a character of a man was pretty.
Yeah.
Great. What Liefeld was saying.
It's kind of funny, right? Because us as comic book fans, we kind of put these guys like on a high pedestal.
Sure.
But then when you actually go meet them, they're kind of timid dudes. I mean, you can tell. I mean, they're kind of nerds like us. And they're not used to this cult of personality that they get surrounded by themselves. It's like when Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Rob Liefeld, they were like rock stars. I mean, deep down, they're just like, they just want to draw. I'm sure it's like that for Claremont. Stan Lee is really the only guy that can really think that, embrace that rock star persona. Everyone else kind of just looks like, whenever you see an artist at a Comic-Con, what do you usually see? They're not looking up. They're usually just drawing.
Yeah.
And if they see like someone there, oh, hi. But it's usually kind of just like they're drawing and kind of not looking.
I have a great picture with me and Larry Hama, and he looks so like happy. He smiles big and everything in the picture. But right before that, he was almost like standoffish with me. And I was like, oh,
that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like for us, these guys are like superstars, like rock stars. But for them, they're probably just like, like shit. Do I have to do these cons?
And it's funny because you think they would get used to it, right? But these guys just don't. It's a kind of, I think, like an introverted profession.
But then it's probably the questions they always get probably asked to. There's those, classic nerds that, what do you think, what were you thinking on this issue, blah, 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 when Batman and Superman are fighting, you're just like, I don't remember.
Yeah, I always love the beginning of Chasing Amy, because they're there at the con, You've got Ethan Suplee there, and he's like talking to the creator of Milkman, and he's like, I love Chow Yun Fat. I just don't see Chow Yun Fat as Milkman. And then when he goes and talks to them, he's like, the shit you did, Blunt Man and Chronic, so great. Like, they're both like, okay. Like, I mean, and we all know comic book fans can be intense.
And I think that's the thing, it's like, for us, these guys are like royalty. They're superstars for me and you. We get excited. We get mind blown. And they're probably just like, just doing what I love doing,
No, 100%. Jerry says, I dig his Avengers run too. His Scarlet Witch redesign is still pretty dope. Jerry saying Stan sure did.
Yeah, I mean, Stan's the only one, like I said.
Also like the Trekkies.
the Trekkies.
Yeah.
Which they make good fun of in a good way in Galaxy Quest.
Oh, right. Yeah, classic, man. Even Liefeld says, is he like Liefeld or Liefeld?
It's Liefeld.
Liefeld.
Yes.
Okay, so he's saying, he goes, there's no nicer guy in the business, no classier guy. He goes, the only one that he could even think of close would be Stan.
Nice.
So and he says that George Pérez is his favorite.
Oh, nice.
So there's a guy that is, maybe for a younger generation.
For a lot of the podcasts I heard with him, is he always mentions John Byrne. So,
and he says that they were kind of professional rivals, and I didn't know that.
You can kind of see it if you can, honestly.
Yeah, he says there's even a famous picture where John Byrne says, like, take this picture of me. He tells someone to take a picture of him, and he goes, I'm going to imitate like all of George Perez's drawings, and he says it's like big hand motions and like head cocked back with the mouth wide open.
Usual. Yeah,
right. And I was like, oh, okay. But Rob Liefeld was saying, he goes, comics is competitive. Like anything that you're professional with somebody else, it's competitive. He goes, so they were going.
It's X-Men.
Right.
It's New Teen Titans. It's kind of like the same, like you said. It's the younger crowd.
Yeah.
This youth. And they're both going head to head.
Well, he said John Byrne was quoted as saying, "I'm the biggest thing in comics right now." When you're doing the X-Men, sure, but then you have this guy that's doing this team. He even said, George Pérez said he didn't think that Teen Titans was going to make it. He was like, I'm just doing this book so I can get to JLA. And then it blew up, he said. And then it's like, now you're going head-to-head with X-Men. That's a bold...
That is.
That's really bold. And it's so funny because I know Jerry's a huge Cyclops guy. Cyclops is his guy. And one of the things he said is that it was like through that run... is they said where, Dick Grayson becomes like a leader like Cyclops. They're like, he's leadership-wise... neck to neck, if not better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because last night Jerry called us Nightwing guys. He goes, "Oh, they're Nightwing guys."
And I do love Nightwing.
We'll take it.
I do love
yeah,
Nightwing.
absolutely.
I
We love
still
Nightwing.
wish Robert Pattinson would have been chosen as Dick Grayson. I've said that to CM like throughout this whole time. I'm like, I wish he would have been Nightwing.
I want
Batman.
I want more Bat family than Batman at this point or whatever.
Same here.
But I did say we both love pretty much animated series and movie Batman because those are all vulnerable Batman. It's only in the comic.
I think we're ready for Nightwing. I think we're ready for a Nightwing movie.
We're ready for Bat family stuff, man. That whole Red Hood story is so captivating. I'm like, man, give us that story, you know? So I'm excited for this game coming out where it's supposed to be the Bat family and no Batman. Batman dies in the beginning, supposedly.
And it's funny because you brought that up, and you know this has always kind of been known. You know how there's that famous X-Men cover of Cyclops carrying Jean.
Yes.
And then they did this in Crisis.
Mm-hmm. Look at
where
that.
Superman's carrying.
If you guys are just listening along and not watching, you've got
it's kind of like that same kind of cover. So I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe he did that on purpose.
This is by far one of the most iconic Superman images. If you guys if you're just listening to us on audio and not watching, Google "Crisis on Infinite Earths" and you'll see that great picture of Superman with tears in his eyes carrying Supergirl. You know,
do you want to get into that
one? Go ahead, because you know what? I actually have not read that story.
Okay, so no, the whole thing about it is really cool. Mm-hmm. Like the whole setup to it. So at this time, DC as it is right now, we've talked about it.
The water is muddy.
Very. There is just so much crap that people were just kind of trying to remember. There were so many Supermans around. There were so many Batman stories going around. There were so many...
Too much kryptonite around,
legends.
Right?
It was like the JSA were still there. The JLA was still there. You know, it was kind of like all these things were just... It was a mess. DC was just a complete mess. No one could really pinpoint a history. Superman's origin had been messed up so many times. Batman's, whole story had been messed up so many times. Yeah. Everything was just a mess. It was hard to follow. Right. It just, every time you have this path, they take you this way, and then they take you this way. So in an attempt to kind of clean up itself and kind of redo everything, they assigned Marv Wolfman and George Pérez to finally just, you know what, let's just end it. Let's do a big story and kind of clean up DC, and we'll start rebooting. So
so I think I knew that much about it. Is that was what it was intended to be? Was like we got to kind of restart everything because it's a mess.
Yeah, so it's kind of, and it's still kind of a mess now. That's the thing, and it's even like with the movies now. It's like we, like you said, we got Michael Keaton, we got Ben Affleck, and we got Robert Pattinson all playing a Batman. It's kind of like fuck me.
I think George Pérez said that because they asked him, what did he think about? Excuse me. The one interview that we both watched, where it was right before Titans came out, I think, and he was saying, he goes, the purpose of that was to clean it up. He goes, meanwhile, we're holding on to everything still, so it's like nothing went away.
Yes, yeah. So for a good while, though, they did try to hold it steady, and for a while, it's like he said, a term was created. 2 terms.
That's right.
Post-crisis, pre-crisis. So it was their attempt to finally just clean up everything. In the story, it's about this anti-monitor who comes along and is trying to he's destroying parallel universes left and right, trying to gain more power for himself. Everybody starts crossing over everybody. It's, again, an attempt to kind of get rid of this and get rid of that. Superman dies. This Green Lantern dies, people die. Flash dies, Barry Allen dies.
That's when he's running, right, so fast, and he starts to turn to a skeleton. That's another iconic, without even reading the story, you can just Google that, and you'll see that great imagery.
I have it saved.
Let me get into these comments real quick.
This is for visual, but there's that famous Flash cover.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just ready to get real quick. So Jerry says, Galaxy Quest is my jam. Love it. Joe says, what is up, boys? Sorry, just checking in.
Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations.
Yeah, huge congrats, Joe, to you and your family on your new home.
And good for staying on the southeast side.
That's right. And we'll have some of these there and christen the home soon. Jerry also says, and Leaflet is known for copying poses hardcore. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess it's really going to depend on you if it's copying or for him. Like, if you hear his podcast, it's really like he's just really in love with these dudes and he just likes showing his own kind of like in honor to this. You know,
I loved, you know, and I know you've always told me to listen to it, and I like always meant
there's
to
just
get
so
to
much
it.
though. It's hard.
Yeah, but I was so glad I listened to what I did today because really hearing the fanboy in him come out.
Yeah, I mean that's
fantastic.
all it is. Once you hear the podcast, you kind of start hearing, oh, this is kind of like his love for these guys.
Yeah,
you know,
dude, he was naming like issue numbers and all that. And I was like, oh shit, my comic knowledge is not that hardcore.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I've been over to so and so's house. He's some exec from Disney. He's like, and we just looked at his collection, and I was like blown away by what Avengers issues he had from George Pérez. Yeah. He said he was a big Pérez fan. I'm going to tell this great story, and again, I want to give all credit to Rob Liefeld and his podcast, Robservations. Go check it out if you haven't. But he was talking about how when he was young, he knew that George Pérez was going to come to this con in California because he loves Southern California. That's where Rob.
That's where he was born. Yeah, and so that's where the Comic-Con scene was pretty much born. Yeah. So he got a front row seat to a lot of that.
So I think Rob says it was like in Anaheim, San Diego, something like that, or whatever. Anyway, he was like, man, he was like, it was a 2-hour bike ride. He was like, it was I think a 1-hour drive or 45-minute drive. So he said, you know, he knew he was going to go no matter what. I forgot how he said how he got there, but he gets there, right? He says that George Pérez had original pages drawn for sale. Yeah. So he said, you know, he goes, this is what a great guy he is, and I know you have a story too, but he was saying that, you know, he took his time and that he said, well, what are you looking for? You know, a young guy, maybe 12 or 14.
He's got to be around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says that he's like, well, you know, I only have this much money, and he's like, okay, for your budget. So he said he had this big splash page, which splash pages were more. He goes, but this one was cheaper because it was villains, and he said it was a dark side splash page. Man. So he says he bought it. So, you know, Rob Liefeld owned it, this original art. And then he goes, man, somewhere down the line in my life, I sold it. Which I'm like, man, why would you part with that? Your favorite guy. Well, funny thing is that he says that it ended up in the hands of the guy that became his attorney at one point. And then from that guy's hands, it passed to, damn, I forgot who he said, but it was another executive, you know, that does TV writing, whatever. And he was like, he went to his house and they actually told the story. And he said that the guy brings it out to show people and actually tells that part of the story. Like, oh, this is from George Pérez, but it was actually owned by Rob Liefeld. Like, you know, sometimes you wonder, right, where did it originate? Like, whose hands? It's like, holy shit, that's like, you just got all the owners right there. Like, that's a great comic book story and like comic book fan story. Like, if you own something like that, like I bought it from the original artist and then I had it, and then I don't know, maybe you needed the money or whatever. You sold it. You know, it's pretty cool, and then it stays like people you know own it. I mean, if I was Rob, I'd be trying to get it back. You know, but great story though. I thought, you know, on his show regarding
Jerry says artists are always ripping off each other, but in a good way. Homages are compliments. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, sincere form of flattery, right?
Unless, like he said, there is sometimes like I have heard that Alex Ross and Mark Waid they did create Magog as a kind of like as an insult to Rob Liefeld because they couldn't, like I've read somewhere where Alex Ross said he could not stand the cable design. The cable design was everything about the 90s that was wrong about the comic book characters. You know, the eye, the arm, everything.
Well, Magog does have that look.
Yeah, and he does. When you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah. It's kind of like a, you know, because Rob Liefeld, I don't know, a lot of people, he's pissed off a lot of people, I guess. So, So Magog was supposed to be like an insult to Cable and his design and all that kind of shit. So
well, it's interesting because, like, you know, I mentioned Chasing Amy earlier too. You know, the con scene, but I love the first 20, 25, 30 minutes of that movie so much because it's just very comic book centric. You know, but she when she's talking about her book, you know, Alyssa Jones, she's like, oh, well, it's hard for a girl to make her way in the big tits, big guns, big pecs era. You know what I mean? And like, right away, I thought about it. I was like, it sounds like a Rob Liefeld book.
And Rob Liefeld, yeah.
I mean, but again, you know, Gen 13 stuff like that. That's like that's what was making Image at that time. You know what I mean? You like these, you know, characters that were buff and they looked, you know, badass. You know, I mean,
shit, Jim Lee did it too for X-Men.
Yeah,
and there's like that whole beach. You know, catalog that he had.
It was a style of the time. You know what I mean? Like grunge music was a style of the time. You know? So, let's see.
Jerry says Post-Crisis, New 52, Rebirth, Infinite Frontier. He goes, so many good reads. Rizzo back, he goes, what's going to be drawing, so I'm going to have you guys up on the TV. I'm going to send you a DMCM and let me know after the show. Okay. Awesome, Rizzo.
We'll do, Riz. Yeah.
Glad you're listening. Maybe we can give you some inspiration with our George Pérez episode.
Or we'd love to hear your thoughts on George Pérez Rizzo as an artist, you know, talking about another obviously classic artist.
A titan.
A titan. Yeah, see, we fucked up the titles.
Jerry says, duty calls, got to split dudes, keep up the great show. And then he goes, oh, before I go, I gotta mention all the pouches and oversized guns. Oversized guns. They ruled the 90s.
Yes, and pouches. You need more pouches, man.
It's funny because on our Twitter, somebody did send out a tweet to Rob Liefeld where it's like, look, Rob Liefeld was right. It was some model wearing like a whole thing of pouches. He's like, yeah. See, I told you guys.
I love that.
But you know what? I love the dude. I have loved the dude. I had the pleasure of meeting Rob Liefeld. I do love his stuff. The New Mutants run he had and the X-Force run, really solid stuff. From Louise Simonson writing to Fabian Nitze writing. I mean, his stuff was good. His run with New Mutants X-Force was great. It was really good. If you ever had a chance to read them, read it, because I was blown away by them. I thought they were going to be shit. Yeah. And I was really surprised how good the storytelling was.
Hey, and the truth is the guy, I know, he can do a lot of stuff really amazing. And we were geeked when that Snake Eyes stuff came out. Both of us were like, oh, damn,
and I have all those. I have all 5 issues. So,
but we digress. We're here to talk about Mr. George Pérez.
And speaking of Rizzo says he is one of my all-time favorites.
There you go, right? Yeah. And, you know, what about a little back history? Double A, I know you got some notes, but he, you know, you said by way of where it was in New York, right?
New York, yes, around the Bronx, I believe.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so I'm sorry. Back to the Crisis. So like they do it, you know, and you know they fix it up to where it's like one. Everything's one. Mm-hmm. Okay, everything's fixed. All this shit kind of thrown away. All the unnecessary baggage. Right? They set up DC with a blank slate. Yeah. All right, here it is. Oh, and Crisis is a huge hit, by the way. Mm-hmm. Biggest book of 1985. Just a huge event. It outsells Secret Wars. Oh. You know, Marvel's big event. Sure. You know, it outsells that. It's just a huge monument to DC. It was just, wow, DC did it. You know, boom. Mark Wolfman, George Pérez, they boom. After that, that's when we get John Byrne run from Superman. Yes. That starts off, you know, the more kind of origins that we know. And that's why I kind of left that up.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see that if you're watching us.
Yeah. So John Byrne kind of like redoes.
Right at top of us.
He redoes the whole Superman story. He's the one that kind of makes Lex Luthor the businessman. No longer the Justice League villain with the big armor.
Right.
Which I found out George Pérez is the creator of.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I was like, oh wow, so that's
which I love the big armor when it's when he's gonna fight.
He was
Superman.
the villain though. Yeah. He was a villain. Where now he's a billionaire. He's a corrupt billionaire. Mm-hmm. You know, so he rewrites all that. Superman finally has one origin story. That's it. Boom. Yeah. And that's a success. That's a huge success. Frank Miller gets his hands on Batman. Year one. Boom. That's a success. Boom. So we got his origin. Mm-hmm. George Pérez is like, man, you know what? I'm liking what these guys are doing. Let me handle Wonder Woman. Let me reboot her. You know, because he's gone on record saying he hated what they had done to Woman prior to that. Up to that, it's just, it's almost like he even said that DC lost focus of her. Mm-hmm. They just totally forgot about her. Yeah. And so, he's like, let me handle the duties. Let me write. Let me do art. Well, you know, it becomes a hit. You know, it's not a big Teen Titans, but I mean, you're asking a lot by that point. Sure. But just because his name is on there, all of a sudden Wonder Woman kind of gets her status back. Boom. Yeah. He starts ingraining, you know, the Greek stuff. Mm-hmm. More of that stuff. He kind of gets away from whatever it was behind, and he starts doing that.
Yeah, and that kind of origin of her being from the clay.
Yes. He kind of reintroduces that again. And because of all that stories, that's where, you know, Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman, has said that she got a lot of inspiration from his run.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I became such a big fan of that movie that, you know, I like Kristen Wiig's portrayal of Cheetah, that I actually bought her first appearance.
Yeah, you do have that on it.
Yeah, which is right there.
Very nice.
So I liked hers so much that I was like, you know what, I got to get hers, which is still very affordable.
And Double A, was he doing writing duties as well?
He was doing writing
duties
as well. I mean, man, just like that, you know, the whole rebooting was working for DC. Yeah. It was going well. New Superman, new Batman, new Wonder Woman. Everything was going so well. But, you know, eventually down the line, DC already starts getting muddy the waters already. But, I mean, man, you know, for a good while, man, you know, they had set DC clean.
And what's cool is that the Wonder Woman that we kind of maybe are most familiar with is the Pérez version. Yes. That's the one that, you know, we kind of think of when we think of her as this strong, this leader. You know, her powers, I would say, probably which are like, you know, you could say almost up to par with Superman. You know, like if not a shade below.
Well,
whatever,
especially at that time too, you know, because John Byrne kind of knocked down Superman's power level a little bit.
Yeah,
you know, so to make him like, I guess the story's more interesting.
Right.
Know, so
right. But I mean, there you go. You've established, you know, you're reestablishing the big three.
Yeah.
And you're using three of the best, you know, to do it.
You gave it a blank slate. Obviously, they fuck it up much later on. But still, it's kind of like, you know, like, hey, you know, these two guys were able to do that. These two guys were able to give you. DC trusted them so much that they were like, you know what? I think you can do this for us. I think you can reset DC.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Let me get these comments here from Rizzo. Rizzo says, I love Deadpool, but not because of Liefeld. I have some stories, but for another time.
And see, I think that too, that's the thing too, even though Liefeld kind of created Deadpool, it's kind of like Deadpool's kind of popularity. It was still during Liefeld's time, but his popularity seemed to skyrocket though afterwards.
Right?
After he left Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, even though he was a hot character though during Liefeld's run though. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Rizzo also says Liefeld made him
has made some decisions that knocked him down several pegs for me.
I hear you.
Which I've heard.
Yeah.
The same. So
yeah, I know it's hard to, you know, with the. I think it's hard just with real life people in general to, like, you know their actions and the status that they're in. And it makes it difficult for you to be like, oh, what do you do on that? Let me get to a couple more of Jerry's comments that he's not with us anymore.
Oh yeah.
But he did
so I mean,
comments.
man, you know, this is all going for, you know, Marv Wolfman and George Pérez for like about a good 4 years. So man, what a great run, solid run, you know, that they have.
Yeah, Jerry talks about, he says here, well, he mentioned earlier, loved his Scarlet Witch design, tapping into her gypsy origins. He also says the Fantastic cover from his Avengers run, and he actually sent us a picture, so you guys can look this up. But, I mean, it's just, again, classic, you know, George Pérez, everybody's there, cap right in the front. You just want to look at it. Falcon. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you want to look at it and just, like, look at it for a long time, like, who's all there? Like, who is there? So it's great. I mean, anytime you guys want to see George Pérez.
And it's always cool when there's like another like kind of comic artist that comes along, because you always want to see how he's going to do.
Right.
How is he going to do his Captain America? How is he going to do his Superman? His Wonder Woman? You know, you're always interested to see, wow, how is he going to draw it? You know, with Steve Dillon, we kind of were like, we kind of always figure we know what we get from Steve Dillon, right? But it's still kind of funny, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Or Jim Lee is like, oh man, what if Jim Lee got his hands on Superman?
Yeah,
and we found out.
Exactly. Which made it more like, oh man, like, you know, you were waiting for that, you know, to see those images. You know,
there's like so many artists that always want to tackle Wolverine, and we've had so many, and you're just like, man, which one is the best one that's drawn Wolverine? You know,
it's hard. That Jim Lee one's hard to contest.
Jim Lee's hard. The Barry Windsor Smith stuff is, you know, really good.
The image you sent me last week, you know, it was a great image. We had talked about it, and then I forgot because my brain is just shot.
You know, there's obviously the John Byrne, you know, Wolverine. You know,
yeah. I like this comment from Jerry. I didn't know this. Jerry says he had some JLA postcards back in the '80s that are pretty rare now, and I'd not heard of or seen those. So that'd be something that if you run across them at a flea market or antique show, pick those up. You know what I mean? So JLA postcards. You know, when I see George Pérez's art, AA, I feel like it's like I'm looking at what like the. When you think of that character, the way they look, the way he does his Thor is very like the iconic Thor.
Yeah.
I think he said one of his inspirations is like Jack Kirby. And it's so funny because sometimes when you see, like, when you go to like, I don't know, Hobby Lobby or even a Walmart, and you see like they kind of put that retro style art on it, and it's Marvel stuff because, you know, now everything is
Marvel.
Everything's Marvel or resold or DC stuff too. It's a certain look to those characters.
Yes, it is.
They've got either this really sharp modern look, which is kind of looks computery and not very great, and then you have they kind of tap into this like older look, but it's like it either feels like you're looking at Kirby art, but the other guy I think of is George Pérez. I'm like, oh, the way he draws them, they look very heroic. The good guys look like good guys. I mean, the women look, you know, they're beautiful, but it's not overdone. And it's like, oh yeah, I feel like those are the classic images I think of when I think of these characters. I mean, like almost how they were. You know, like in something like the Super Friends, but obviously drawn much better. You know what I mean? But those iconic looks to the characters, you know what I mean, are exactly what I think of when I think of them. And
it's cool, like you said, like we said, you know, it's kind of cool when an artist like that too wants to draw everyone, so you kind of get a look of how he does it, you know. Yeah. And it might, you know, be the stamp that every other artist usually follows, you know. Like for a long time, like after Jack Kirby had left, Stan Lee wanted everyone to draw like Jack Kirby, you know. So it was kind of hard for a lot of those artists to kind of put their own stamp, you know. So, but he was like, I want you to draw like Jack would draw it, you know.
Like the one docu and I watched, the guy was like, oh well, you know, one of the things maybe was a mistake is that like he gave Thor like kind of like a button nose, and he goes, if you know, he was like nobody liked it or because it wasn't like I guess like you know like a heroic nose, and they were saying that, but at least that you could tell that he wasn't Cap when he had his helmet off because otherwise they would have looked the same. And I was like, yeah, you got to give credit to art like that, thinking like that, because you're like, well, I've got to differentiate these characters who are two, you know, yes, Thor has long hair, but besides that. You know, two blonde guys. You know, we both love Steve Dillon. We talk about that or whatever. But you know, he's got a very specific look to his guys, and it's like okay, like you know, you're looking at a Steve Dillon book. You know what I mean? So you know, his Wolverine is just kind of almost like his other stuff, but with the hair. You know what I mean? The,
Jesse,
the way they look. You know, so which we know a lot of artists, you know, do that. And, hell, who are we to criticize? I can't draw.
I can't draw shit. Yeah.
I mean, I just love it. If the story's there and the art helps propel that in any way, by all means.
Yeah.
So. But what else, Double A? You know, we talked about his Titans, we talked about Wonder Woman. We talked about
after all this
Crisis.
stuff that he's kind of done, and I mean, man, that's a whole lot for DC.
Oh yeah,
he gives them the biggest title, you know, that they have, Teen Titans. He gives them like the biggest event, which is Crisis.
Crisis, yeah.
You know, he helps set up, you know, the whole reboot for DC. I mean, he's pretty much like him and Mark Wolfman are carrying DC on their back.
Sure,
you know, giving them all this.
It sounds like it for sure.
They eventually named him one of the 50 people who actually made DC great. One of the 50. That's awesome. So, I mean, that's a pretty huge honor.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so, huge honor. And
you're probably on there with names like Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster,
you would have to,
Bob Kane.
Yeah, the guys that gave you everyone. The guys that gave you pretty much your Justice League.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but now these two guys, though, for giving you pretty much the success of the 80s almost, you know, for keeping DC probably afloat more than anyone. Two at that point.
Well, I mean, at a time when you're up against the X-Men, you could potentially be getting crushed.
Not just X-Men, but
you hang in there.
But then you have the Star Wars title that's, you know, just super hot. The Spider-Man title that's super hot. You know, I mean, golly.
It is, you know, leave it to me, right, or us to harken it back to wrestling, but it's like, you know, it took something. You know, when WCW was out there with the NWO, which was the biggest thing at the time, it took something. No, you're good. It took something to, you know, for WWE, oddly in an underdog situation, to hang in there with teams like DX, teams like, you know, the Nation, that still, you know, The Rock, you know, being on there, still make them interesting enough to make us want to tune in, because it was like, man, the NWO was huge and it was crushing everybody, you know, and that's kind of what X-Men was. But then it's kind
of something like them for them. It's like the new Teen Titans was like a real surprise hit that no one would have thought. And, you know, who popped up for WWF with, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know.
There you go, too, right? Yeah, you get that dark horse that kind of comes in, and
you're just like, what the fuck, you know?
And it wasn't even too like, it was very similar to, I think, that Teen Titans situation, because it was like, sure, you have Robin, but now he's calling himself Nightwing, and then you've got this host of new characters.
Yeah, just
you know,
whole bunch of new
the X-Men had a little bit of history from the, you know, although they looked, you know, I mean, different. You still had that,
but,
you know,
with the X-Men too, you got, man, you know, you get introduced to Nightcrawler, a European, you know, Storm, an African American, Wolverine, a Canadian, you know, Colossus, a Russian. It's kind of like, whoa, it's kind of like weird.
Yeah, that's a good
you
move
know,
on their part.
So it's kind of like, oh shit, you know.
Very cool.
You know, but it takes Chris Claremont and John Byrne to kind of move that needle, you know, and you know, that's what happened here with Marv Wolfman and George Pérez. You know?
Absolutely. Let's see, Rizzo is here. He says, Pérez art is so fucking amazing, so consistently good, and has that wow factor, especially on covers. I mean,
so many iconic covers. You know, and I didn't even know he was the inker on that last Superman story with Alan Moore. The one that ended the Silver Age.
Yeah.
He's the inker on
the one we both picked up a copy of, right?
Yeah, he's the one that inked over that one.
And, you know, again, not to, well, kind of two things real quick, but one of them to call back to him as a man and the character he was. You know, Liefeld talks about how much that he goes, he would see me at his booth so often that one year he let him work the booth with him.
Oh, shit.
And he said that George Pérez gave him pages that were pencils. And he said, you practice inking on these. and that he was like, man, he was like, I didn't know like what to do, because I mean, can you imagine it'd be like if your favorite artist gives you pencils and it's like, but he goes, I know your dream is to become a comic book artist, so to do it, you got to like practice your inks on these. And so he was like, yeah, man, I like tried to get the best. I waited, he said, to get him. I tried to get the best, I guess, like inking pencils. Yeah. So that, I mean, but like, damn, that's like getting to practice on someone established. Work.
It's kind of cool that you mentioned that, because there's also a cool story he mentioned too, and it involved all the Image guys. Mm-hmm. But they really wanted to do something special for Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby had here's some pages, and each of them took a turn inking over Jack Kirby. So I mean, man, that must have just been a thrill for Rob Liefeld at that time in the '80s to ink over George Pérez is like, here, ink over mine. I mean, man, George Pérez is like one of the hottest.
I'd be like, I don't want to ink on your pencils. Yeah, like, can I just keep this?
Artist around, Yeah, I'd be like, man, I'm afraid. Like,
big time. But like, it just, to me, it was kind of that classic story of like, here's a guy that sees a kid that's enthused and he wants to help him grow and things like that.
And that's a really cool story. That really is. I mean,
I thought it was really neat. Then he also said that another kind of cool story, again, from Observations, again, Rob Liefeld's podcast, is he said that there used to be like almost these little, like, I don't really know how to put it, he says it better, but like, they're like little fan clubs, right? And you would like, like all of us that love Titans hang out, or we communicate maybe by mail or whatever.
Well, it had to be mail.
Yeah, by mail. Yeah. And so he says that there was a part of the contest or part of the group where George Pérez said, if you guys send me a picture of yourself and your name, I will draw you into this big wedding that was going on in the Titans.
Yes.
So Rob said he was lazy and didn't send in his picture, but he did send in his name. And he goes, if you look at the guest book in the comic, you could see Rob Liefeld's name.
That's awesome.
But he goes, but some of his buddies that were in the group, they did get drawn into the crowd. I was like, dude, so
that's awesome.
But what artist does that? Right? Double A. That's fucking
that's really cool.
And dude, it was. I told you before, off the mic, off air, that I was listening to it. And I was like getting kind of choked up. It doesn't take much for me, right? But I'm like, dude, what a measure of the man. George Pérez to say, hey, this little group of guys are my fans of Titans, or whatever. They're like the. People are always like, I'm your biggest fan, or whatever. But this little group really like goes for it, let me do this particular contest. Shit, you don't know how many people are going to write in or whatever. It's like, and then you're like, again, obviously the man didn't shy away from drawing a lot of people, but to get those faces captured in there, I mean, like, I just think about it like myself. I mean, like, I have a distinct face because, I have my birthmark. So it's like, I couldn't imagine if I was drawn into a comic book,
just geeked out.
I would be like, holy shit. And then it's like, you're immortalized. Like, Rob Liefeld's name was in a comic book before he was even a comic book artist, you know what I mean? Like, or writer. So that's pretty amazing, you know what I mean? Just as a fan to get your name in there. Let's see, Rizzo also says, that's when you take those pages to Kinko's and ink over the copies. Yes, very wise. Yeah. Very wise. And Rizzo, we got to thank Rizzo also for, if we haven't yet, the incredible Podman t-shirt.
Oh, man, speaking of popping, when you see yourself.
Your face, I know. Yeah. Your distinct face. Thank you for getting my left side, Riz. I'm sure you had to think all that out as you were drawing it. And I told him he was the only man that could put us in skinny jeans.
I know. Rizzo, you do.
Yeah, man, I cannot.
Like comic bodies.
I can't wait to get that shirt, brother, man. And we gotta all figure something out.
My forearms are big.
I was gonna say, I was like, man, Double A's been eating his spinach, man. Yeah. I was like, I think my neck is what impressed me.
You're like, you're like the tick.
Yeah, I had the tick neck for sure. So I was like, all right, I gotta keep it going here.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
But great stuff, guys. If you haven't seen the incredible Podman shirt, go check out 3leggedrabbit.com. Give a click on that, and then buy you a copy of the shirt.
Check out Rizzo too at Invincible Comics and More.
Yeah. Did I say incredible? I meant Invincible. Am I saying incredible? So the booze is getting guys.
Invincible Comics and More.
Invincible, the Invincible Podman. Yeah, sorry, Riz. It's a combination of a long work day and trying to drink. So you got to forgive me, guys, for not my sharpest tonight. But yeah. So what else? I think you were getting I think you're getting ready to tell us about. Now it's time to get to Marvel.
Yeah, the Marvel stuff. So apparently, after a while, him and DC kind of sour a little bit and kind of stays away from DC. He goes to Marvel, and man, we get with Jim Starlin, who we both met. Mm-hmm. We get the Infinity Gauntlet, man.
Yeah,
which turns out to be one of the most important Marvel stories ever.
I think they made a little movie about that.
A little movie.
A little tiny flick about that. Most people, would be like, watch the movie and become a fan, and then say, "Oh, I would have liked to read that comic." And then if you're able to afford one and track one down, you're looking at George Pérez's art.
Especially how iconic that first one is.
Oh,
that first issue is. I mean, that's just become
and that cover
so
is too, right? With the glove, the lights coming out.
And there's like a really cool picture when I was looking at his Facebook. There's a cool picture where he's wearing a gauntlet.
Nice.
So I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
I love his looks too. He's got a very he has the ability to make his face look sinister. Although he's such a nice fella, everyone says. But that the imagery in that book sticks out to me because I can always remember that first surfer falling through the Sanctum Sanctorum, being on the couch, saying he's coming. That image of Mephisto almost like bowing to Thanos, which I didn't like because I was like, "What the fuck? You don't bow to Thanos, Mephisto." You know what I mean? Then that big, the stone that says God. You know what I mean? Thanos. Then you see his throne, which is like Death's face, and like all that shit. Like they emote Thanos really well in that. Pérez does a great job. I mean, that's an amazing.
I mean, you
run.
call on the right artist to do something that big. Obviously, after Crisis, you need something big. You got to call George Pérez on that one. And it's just another chance for him to draw people that he's probably never drew before. A Silver Surfer, a Mephisto, a Captain America,
even Thanos.
Thanos probably too, because Jim Starlin, I think, created him during, his time when he was in DC.
Right.
Yeah, so.
I just love that about him too, that Pérez seemed like he was waiting for an opportunity to like, oh, this new character came out and it's cool, I want to wait for my opportunity to draw them. When it comes up, I'm going to take that opportunity, and it's like, put his stamp on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's incredible.
It's just so cool. It's just another great pairing too. It's Jim Starlin, it's George Pérez. It's like, golly, what another great twosome. I mean, Jim Starlin is usually called the master of the sci-fi, kind of stuff. The for the surfer stuff, for the Thanos stuff. He's usually the guy to call. So I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, an amazing pairing. Rizzo does correct me. He says, "Bro, I've been everywhere lately, and it's been called Incredible a lot. Almost considering a name change. Just kidding. Yeah, no, definitely. You are invincible. You're staying invincible. Riz, I just think that being invincible is so incredible. Is what I'll say about it. So, what we need to do is make a Pixar movie called The Invincibles.
Hey,
there we go. See, market that, trademark that. You can put our faces on it again if you want.
And obviously, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously adapting its whole first 20-something movies, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
I mean, think about that, right, Double A? Like, at some point, they're having a conversation with Robert Downey Jr., with Chris Evans, and they're probably saying, well, tell us about this.
Yeah.
Where's, can we see the source material? He gets to know that, man, his work was in the hands of these huge celebrities, right now, and they're going to go on to make one of the biggest films of all time. And, it comes back to him and the stuff that he drew. I mean, that's
how crazy is that for him?
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And then, like we said, obviously his work has been adapted going on with the cartoon Titans, the show Titans.
That's become a franchise inside DC Universe. Even Crisis on Infinite Earths was adapted into the shows.
Which was like my first time getting into those shows. I knew that it was going to be such a compelling story. I wanted to check it out. So
so I mean, it's just I was like, wow, So I mean, his stuff is always getting pulled. And then speaking of like kind of like the dystopian universe, we get the two-parter, Future Imperfect. Which became a huge Hulk story.
Yeah.
Huge Hulk story.
Written by Peter David, right?
Yes, Peter David.
Probably the consummate Hulk writer.
Probably the Hulk writer. And, in these 2 issues, you get so much. And there's this really great, 2 pages of like all the artifacts from all the Marvel heroes and villains that are dead. It's just it's another page that you're just like, you're looking at it. You're looking at everything. You're looking at the Surfer's broken board.
Yeah.
You're looking at Thor's hammer. You're looking at all the helmets to see what helmets they belong to. You're seeing Professor X's chair. Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. I mean, man, he's just drawing everything. And everything is drawn in there.
And just what about the look, though, of the Maestro, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this guy looks like a bad bastard.
In this story, like, all the heroes are dead. Every one of them, except for the Hulk. The Hulk's like the only one that's lived. But he becomes so twisted with all the gamma radiation that he's been sucking up that he becomes this tyrannical ruler for whoever is left. He becomes the Maestro.
The Maestro.
You know, and he's got like, you know, it's kind of like, think Hulk Hogan. You know, he's got the kind of like the horseshoe hair, but he's gray. But it's like the strongest the Hulk will ever be. It's like he's like at the absolute peak. So he might be older, but he's like the fastest he's ever been, the strongest he's ever been. And, you know, the Hulk, you know, battles himself, but the Maestro just kicks his ass real easy, bad.
And he still has his wits about it, but he's mad. He's gone mad already. You know what I mean? So
it's just a really cool two-parter. And then I read about that too. That Peter David said that he is his favorite collaborator.
Really,
George Pérez is like his favorite, you know,
that's
artistic
awesome.
Collaborator.
That's an awesome.
And it's a really cool story. And I think that's actually become kind of hard to get your hands on.
You're right. I had looked for it for a while, and I think they collected them both in like a single.
And it's cool. The single issues, which is cool too, because when you connect the covers, it's like both of them. It's like Hulk's like this, Maestro's like this. The backgrounds,
type.
And so when you put them together, it's really cool image. It's a really, really
I believe
cool
you're
image.
right. I believe those are pretty hard to come by now, because I know that I looked for them at one moment when I was reading some of the new Maestro stuff that came out, and I was like, man, I need to go back and revisit. And I was like, damn, I can't.
And it's a really cool story. That's, you know, Peter David again was probably the guy who probably would be the Hulk writer for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really cool story. Just a really cool two-parter. It's like almost like Days of Future Past. It's 2 issues. You think it'd be something bigger, but it's just 2 issues. You know, and it really gives you like a whole lot to like read. You're just like, you know, to think about.
They did a lot,
like,
right?
Wow.
It's kind of a lost art, getting a lot done in 2 issues.
In 2 issues, right? Like everything needs to be like 6-issue arcs, and it's just like it was just done in 2 issues. So
it's almost what we say about the movies, right? Where it's like nobody can do the 90-minute movie anymore. Everybody needs like, I need like a 5-episode series, you know?
Yeah.
Double, let's talk about the big one, maybe.
Okay.
JLA Avengers, man, it was kind of his dream project
Yes,
almost,
it was.
right? Because, you know, he'd already drawn the 2 big teams, but man, an opportunity to put them together, and there was going to be a crossover.
And how hard is that, just first off, again, that we're talking about, you know, the 2 biggest comic companies in the world to actually get together.
Yeah.
You know?
And they were going to do it when? Like in the late 80s?
Some said in the 80s, yeah, which there had been crossovers. Obviously, the Teen Titans, X-Men had happened. Batman and Hulk had happened. Superman and Spider-Man had happened. But, I mean, never anything big like this.
Yeah.
You know, the 2 teams actually meeting together.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you've got some great matchups within there, for sure.
Yes, you do.
So it fell through, but there was apparently some work that he had done that was unused. And did it get used later?
Yeah, I believe it got used later, and I think it's collected in one of the editions. I think one of the trades, I think it's collected.
I believe you're right. Yeah. And I think that's going to get re-released soon.
And it's getting re-released, and I think I've read today that they've already met, like, I think the demand is, like, overwhelming, that they've already sold out, like, the first pressings. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because apparently you told me this, but now these 4 are kind of hard to get.
Yeah, that's right. The JLA Avengers. Yeah. And I used to have a set, just like I used to have a set of the Marvel vs. DC, which have also gotten hard to get your hands on. So
and after you told me that, I checked on eBay, and there's some people that are trying to sell them up the ass. Like I saw issues 1 through 4. Someone's trying to sell it for like $400 for the set, for the single issues. I was like, ooh.
I guess those people just aim high in case they get that one dummy,
maybe.
Right? You know?
But, you know, it's kind of like when you hear someone, you know, may pass away, you know, obviously, you know, everyone always wants to get their hands on it.
It's pretty morbid.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, boy, either way, though, he got to do it, right? He got to make his, you know, this kind of dream project happen.
Yeah.
And I think everybody was in there. Even Starro comes out.
Right? Everybody was there. Yeah, everybody was there.
And then that great, of course, they fight, but then they team up, and then that great issue 4 cover. Yeah. That is by far the hardest one to get.
Yeah, which I was crazy.
You know, it's just a fantastic image of Superman holding not only Cap's shield but Thor's hammer. I mean, it's reminiscent of Endgame with, you know, Cap holding his shield and Thor's hammer. You know, only this time it's like, shit, you know, put Superman in that place. And he draws him so Superman. Yes. Like, it's almost like the Christopher Reeve version. Yeah, you know what I mean? For sure. So I loved it. I remember they were glossy covers. It was really, really kick-ass, man. Those were super great.
Yeah, I mean, and then, you know, he did, you know, kind of branch out as a writer. He has a little run with Surfer.
Yes.
You know, that was pretty cool. That's pretty
Liefeld
cool.
mentioned he had a pretty good run with Inhumans. We both love the Inhumans.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, even he kind of branched out. And then he did the one shot, which I have right there, of Superman and Silver Surfer, two of our favorites.
Now, that one, I think I own that one.
Yeah, so he wrote that one.
Very nice.
You know, so
is he the artist as well?
No, somebody else is titling. He's just doing the writing.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, so, I mean, it's cool. And then he did Tim Drake, the Batman Year 3. He did the covers, though. Just the covers.
Nice.
And you can see he does like an old Nightwing.
Looking,
he does like the Teen Titans Nightwing with the suit, you know.
Yeah, and that's like that classic cover where it's Batman and them in the spotlight.
Yes, and I mean they're cool covers. They're really cool covers for a Batman Year 3. So pretty cool.
I'd like to pick those up. Those hard to come by?
No, I actually bought that at Heroes for like about 20.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, because that one's I bought it because Tim Drake's. It's Tim Drake's first appearance.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
So and you can see Nightwing there too. The old Nightwing.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder if he was more partial to that costume.
I mean, that's his costume. That's his design. You know?
Right.
I mean,
I love that.
You know, I mean, Nightwing became so huge. Mm-hmm. You know, after you know they had created him, he became so huge. You know, as a character on its own. You know.
I mean, absolutely. I think that he definitely.
I mean, you have what two of the toys of Nightwing now?
Shit, I think
or just one.
3. No,
three.
Three.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I've got one loose that. You know, my nephew loves to play with it. He's just like, I said, why do you like that one so much? He said, oh, no, this one's just cool. And I was like, yeah, it is pretty cool.
I mean, it's cool to, you know that, you know, he's on him and Mark Wolfman, creator.
Very badass, man. Yeah, man. So, I mean, like, you know, besides the story I'd like you to tell at the end, I mean, like, I mean, I feel like we covered this or something major you want to talk about.
No,
I mean, the man had a story, a dream career. A dream career in comics.
They had the Infinite Crisis. This was supposed to kind of be like a sequel again because everything again got muddied. But this is he didn't have that much involvement in this one, but this is one of the covers that he did do.
Oh, awesome! Superman punching Superman, as you guys.
That is one of his contributions to this sequel to the story.
What a great image!
Yeah. So, and these two are both signed by George Pérez. These two.
Gets his name right on the cover too.
These two, the Crisis and Infinite. What's really cool about this one, this is actually one of my personal favorites and really highly regarded ones, is that it's signed by Marv Wolfman and George Pérez.
Wow, so
I got the team on this one.
There.
Yeah, and this was the only thing I had of them for a long time. Yeah. So I really would have liked to have got
a hardcover
or a hardcover or an issue. But you know what? I'm happy. Marv Wolfman signed up here and George Pérez signed on the bottom. Man. So that's kind of like one of my favorite pieces that I have that I autographed. I'd like to get a team. You know, I have so few that I actually have a team.
That's usually kind of the hard thing to do. Is get both, right? And I know I feel your pain because I have the Dark Knight Returns signed by Frank Miller, but it's a soft cover, and I'm like, I didn't have a hard cover.
I just wish I had an issue. Like it would have been cool if I had the Superman, you know, with Supergirl or the Flash cover. You know, I would have loved one of those.
How hard are those to come by? They gotta go. For
you know what? I didn't really look. I just really wanted the whole story. I didn't even. It was by accident that I even saw that he was coming, you know, and I didn't have that much stuff, you know. Like I came by a lot of these later. Yeah. Like I didn't have that the new Teen Titans, the Nightwing first appearance. I would have loved to have both of them signed on that.
Oh hell yeah!
But I didn't own that one, you know.
Yeah, at the time.
You know, so a lot of these I really didn't have at my disposal. And you know what sucks too about Marv Wolfman? It's kind of like I got him at a Comic-Con. But it was kind of like Danny O'Neill. It was like no one knew kind of who Marv Wolfman was. And it was kind of like, wow, you know, because I have him signed. I don't know if you see it over there. See him. Marv Wolfman is the creator of Bullseye.
Oh, okay.
Daredevil. So I had him sign that one. So that was actually really cool for me to have that signed. So I met him, and there was like really just no one there. So I kind of felt bad. I was like, golly, sometimes, you know, the writers don't get the love sometimes that the artist gets.
Sucks.
You know, unless you're Stan Lee, Chris Claremont, you know, someone like that you know, everyone wants to sign. But, you know, he was nice, super cool. He signed my books, you know, and you know, I was like, oh, you know, cool. I have him on Crisis, probably his most important work, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely.
And then I found out, you know, George Pérez is coming too, like maybe a few years after at the Texas Comic-Con. That's not around anymore.
But, that's where he was at, huh?
Yeah, that fucking place.
Over off of Marbach.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, what year was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember the year. I gotta really look back, but I can't. I don't remember. I have the badge somewhere.
Like knowing now, it's like, can't I miss that? Like, so crazy.
So when I'm going, there's like a whole little room for just the artists, and everyone's kind of like, here, here, here. Then you see the fucking crowd, and you're like, oh, okay, that must be where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going, and I'm like, golly, this long crowd. I mean, I was like, maybe it won't be too bad, right? And I'm like, man, why is this taking so long? Like, it's like I'm standing there for like almost like 2 hours. I'm like, man, what the fuck's going on? As I get closer and closer, I'm seeing people with like stacks. I'm like, man, how the fuck can he afford that? I'm still like a rookie at this, at the Comic-Con scene at this time. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking maybe a person.
Me not being there with you told you this is a story back in the day.
Yeah, it is, because I'm like thinking, man, like, it's kind of like, for me, it was kind of like, how many do I take? Do I take one? Do I take two? Is he going to charge 20? Is he going to charge 20, 30 for an autograph?
Sure.
Again, I didn't know. I was like, this is like, now I just take, as many issues as I want, because usually these guys really don't charge very much.
Mm-hmm.
So I only took like these two for him to sign.
Yeah, your Crisis on Infinite Earths and your Infinite Crisis.
Yeah,
the
sequel. Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so I'm standing in line, I'm hearing it, I'm like, man, these guys are having stacks of fucking comics for him to sign. And
you're talking like over 20 books.
And they're even being specific. They're like, if you can please sign here on this one, if you can sign here on this one, and here on this one, and here. I'm like, golly, that's kind of asking a lot. Like, I'm like, man, these guys are being kind of fucking dicks. Like, you're asking this guy who's signing your books, and you're asking him to sign it like in specific places. I was kind of like, huh. Yeah, I was like, man. Until I finally heard one of the guys ask him, he's like, how are you able to do this? Are you okay? Like, it was somebody else, not the guy with the whole bunch of stacks, but somebody else asked him, like, how are you able to kind of do this for free? And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, what? For free?
For free, yeah.
I was like, this is George Pérez. This is like a fucking giant. He should be charging like, $20 an autograph. Because, Neil Adams really threw me off. Because I thought Neil Adams, if he's charging that much, well, shit, everyone else has to be charging a fucking shitload of money, Good
old Neil hit me for 50 on mine. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, so he threw me off the whole Comic-Con team for a good while. I was just like, man, fuck. And, that's when I heard him say, oh, well, I get so much royalties from this show, this video games, this and that. I was like, wow, because he's kind of like a rare one I've heard where he actually gets royalties. There's so many artists and writers that you just don't hear get the money.
No, yeah, of
get
course.
The royalties. And
that's really badass.
And he's like, so I'm able to come to these cons and kind of sign for free for you guys. But I'm like, man, as awesome as that is, so like I said though, someone taking about 20, 30 comics, it's kind of like, man,
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not gonna lie, even if it's like, hey, I'll tell you what, like if you keep, I wouldn't even give people a number. I would be like, if you keep it reasonable, I'll sign them for free.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to use good judgment.
But you know what? According to what you're saying, people have said about him and what everyone else was doing with the outpouring, he wasn't really pissed off. He was just like...
Just a testament to his character,
he was just signing, just, boom, boom, boom.
Did you get to talk? Did you get to interact
a little bit? Yeah, I got to talk. I was like...
I've heard that, too. I've heard that...
he's very talkative.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld says when he first met him at a con, he said it was taking a long time because he goes, he talked to everyone.
Yes.
Everyone
it's
got
almost
time.
like... you told me that Chris Claremont talked,
no,
right?
No, not Chris Claremont. Who talked a lot? You sure it wasn't a wrestler?
Or, okay, maybe I was a wrestler.
But now I'm trying to remember which wrestler talked a lot.
But yeah, most of the time, comic book guys really don't talk. But, George Pérez was like, you're saying, like, he was just talking with everybody. He was just like, because everyone wants to ask him questions. This is the man. This is the guy who's drawn just about everybody, who's been involved in so many big storylines.
And we didn't focus on his writing, but obviously he wrote quite a bit too.
Yes, he did.
He had a big writing.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's so many people that have so many questions for this man, either regarding his art, how he draws, or how he writes, And again, this is a guy that's drawn everybody under the sun.
Like that, you could say that about a lot of people. But you don't really mean it. But with this guy, you probably do mean it. Even if he drew them small in the background, I think George Pérez literally is drawn.
And he's going to be a guy probably that if he's never drawn it, he's going to make sure he draws that character in focus, and maybe another character he's already drawn, maybe somewhere back.
Yeah, I love that.
You know,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I mean,
awesome.
He's just a super great guy, super nice guy. Totally relaxed at the Comic-Con. Had no fear. You know, he loves the whole celebrity that he has with the genre of the comic books.
Yeah,
signing. I mean, he was great. I wish I could have took more. You know. Honestly, I wish I could have took a picture with him, you know. But you know, I mean, I was just happy just to meet him. I mean, I was like, I knew who he was. You know, I have him and Mark Wolfman. Again, this is one of my most prized possessions, The Crisis, because it's signed by both of them.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. You know, I'm over the moon. I was over the moon when I met him. You know,
that's awesome, man. I love that story so much that you told me that story several times, and I like hearing it every time. Just the fact that you said, you know, even though people had these stacks, and he could have been like any person, been like, hey man, I'll sign about 5. Pick your 5 favorites. If I was doing it, I didn't have a handler or whatever, I would just say that. And I know that, you know, everyone always talks about all the pictures I've seen of him, he's always smiling. He does have the ability to make himself look sinister, which is kind of cool. But these bright colored shirts that I heard were designed by his wife. His wife
and he wore one shirts that day.
I mean, and what you know, again, another testament to him, man. Let me go out where I'm going to be seen the most, and when people do ask me, where'd you get your shirt? You know, I could say my wife made it. You know, giving her free publicity based off his celebrity. You know, so cool. You know what I mean? And like I said, in the Rob observations, the stories of how he treated a young Rob was like, man, like a young guy that's like, I want to be like you. I want to be a comic book artist. And you know, you don't just be like, sure, kid, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but you treat him with really you give them kind of the tools to like maybe do it. You know what I mean? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I do like that story that you said because you know he pretty much told people too. That's another thing. If celebrities aren't going to talk about their finances or whatever, he's like, oh well, I'm doing well enough on that I don't need to charge you. Like, damn, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, I saw a really cool doc. It was years and years ago, but on Neil Gaiman, and it kind of looks like he kind of does the same thing. Like he used to sign, but he kind of used to, you know. He didn't charge.
Yeah. And
there was people that were like bringing like, big sacks for Neil Gaiman to sign.
Yeah.
And they showed like at the end of like one of the cons that he has to put his hands in ice. You know, and that's kind of why he retired because it was kind of like it was just it was starting to become too painful for him.
That's your livelihood, your hands, and it's like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's wrestlers I know we both met that have handlers, and there's some that don't. Like Papa Pump didn't have a fucking handler. He got probably like I didn't need it. But it's also the kind of guy that would say, like, hey, buddy, like you brought a lot there. Why don't you pick your 3 favorites or whatever? Or your 5 favorites if they're nice or whatever. I mean, like, but if they're dickish or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, because number one, it's kind of dickish if you walk up with that. I'm like, you don't respect the people in line behind you. You don't respect my time or my, you know, my livelihood, my hands. Yeah. I'm more than happy to sign for you, you know what I mean? But you know, be respectable. You know, be respectful. Like, are you a fan or are you just going to go throw all this shit on eBay?
Right,
you know what I mean?
And I think, and you can tell one of the guys that had a big load of books.
Someone says, "What's up, ladies?"
Yeah, I was gonna see who that.
Watch yourself, whoever that is.
One of the guys, you can tell one of them was a comic book guy. You can tell he was a salesman,
or a salesman,
comic book salesman. You know,
so he's gonna go sell those signed books.
Yeah, and he knew he was. He just knew it was.
Yeah, that pisses me off, man. You know, I'm in some of these toy groups, AA, and these guys just they go hit up the spots and buy up everything, and then I want to take you know, my nephew to go get something, and there ain't shit there. You know what I mean? So, it says it's me, Charles Morales. Oh, well, I don't know how you're there and here, because I am. That is also who I am. No, here on Friday night I go by CM Chuck. Just keep it straight there. Keep it together there for all that. So you just say Facebook user, whoever you are commenting from here right now. But we appreciate you being here for us talking about George Pérez. But what a great story, Double A. I wanted you to tell that at the end because you had the distinguished honor of meeting the man and you've got his stuff signed. And sadly, you know, we do know the harsh truth is that the man is in his final days.
And
you know.
The other kind of thing I saw too was that supposedly he was going to have one more signing. One more private signing, and CGC was going to told you to send books. Well, I just saw that it got canceled because he's already just too damn sick to even do something like that.
I think even before he got the tumor, they said that he was going to stop because his eyesight was failing.
Yes.
So
his
he retired from comics.
Yeah, so it kind of sucks though that even that, because I was thinking about submitting one, to have one autographed. But yeah, I mean, apparently his health is just it's not good enough to where he can even do kind of like a private signing at the privacy, probably at his own home or something like that. So
yeah. And Rizzo says you could definitely spot a fraud when you do cons as much as Perez. Yeah, for sure, man. That's it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when someone that's willing to be that kind with their time and their craft to get taken advantage of, and then somebody that has to go pay for the book. So
yeah, what sucks too, you're getting this autograph for free, and then you're like turning around and selling it for like $200.
Yeah,
and I think that's why Rob Liefeld has kind of put like a stop to like the witnesses,
right. Right.
Where you can't witness, he doesn't allow the witness to see him sign it. So.
I know, and it's hard to say, right? Because look at us, what happened with Jim Lee, right? It was like I think you had paid for him, right?
Yes.
And then we got the pop up for free. But for you, great, because it was like, I'm just going to double up. Like I'm not upset that I paid because I might not have got it.
I'm not.
You know what I mean? Yeah. We know Mario Authority Comics. Mario was like he paid for some bigger package.
Yeah, and it's a decent package. It's like 3 autographs and a picture. It's like a little over 100, which is fine. Man, if he came again, I probably would pay for that package because there's so much Jim Lee
for 100.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, for 3 autographs. I mean,
I'll go with that.
I love Jim Lee.
Yeah,
I love Jim Lee stuff. I have so much Jim Lee material.
I'd be harder pressed to think about what I was going to get.
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean,
you could always get the Albert Olivares treatment, where Frank Miller signs what he wants.
There's like even like a cool thing, like one of the Preacher trade paperbacks. I think when he goes back to home.
Yes.
There's a cool page that he does of Jesse with the cross burning and Jody and I forgot who else.
It's Grandma.
It's Grandma. And but like man, Jesse looks so fucking.
He gives
cool
him the red eyes.
The red eyes.
He almost looks
Jesse
like
looks so fucking.
When
cool.
he does Superman.
Yes.
With the red eyes.
Yes. And I almost took that trade that day to that pop-up event just so maybe he can sign that one page because I love that page so much.
I bet if you did, you'd probably be the only one that took that page to get signed, which he probably would have been like, oh, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
It's so funny that, because I always remember this is how much it sticks out. But it was like Wizard had gone to certain artists and they were like, it was when they were going to redo the Electric Superman.
Yes.
And so they went to other artists and asked them, like, redesign your Superman. And I remember that the Jim Lee one, like, stood out to me. I remember that your brother ended up giving me that Wizard because he would get rid of his Wizards. And he gave it to me. And I remember I marked that page. Like, I put, like, something, like maybe one of the subscription things where I put it there because I was like, man, I just want to, like, come back and look at this picture. And I would. Because later on he gets to do Superman and he didn't redesign it. But I always thought it looked really badass because he put Superman in short sleeves, which is already kind of like, whoa. But these, like, short, like, red gloves. And he had him in the air. I think he may have even had the kind of like a gold, not crown, but like this gold, like, framing on his. Similar to, like, what Gambit has, And I remember being like, man, I wasn't all about Superman redesigns, but that looked really badass. I always hated that in the Wolverine movies, where he wore the X-Men costume, why couldn't they give him the short sleeves? Like, I was like, this motherfucker never wore sleeves? Like, I'm like, those long costumes just look sorry. Like, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's like, like, I'm not saying it needs to be form-fitting on the men or whatever, but I'm like, dude, like, I've always just dug, like, it would look like a better Wolverine with just, like, short gloves. Like, obviously, you don't want to give him the long blue gloves. Although Peacemaker's gloves are pretty badass. But, and it's so funny, right? Because looking at Cena in that, you're like, well, maybe if motherfuckers are built like him, you can dress them like superheroes.
Yeah.
But either way, I was like, man, like some short gloves and then like the no sleeves. It was just like, I don't know, it just didn't feel very Wolverine. And I was like, he never. And then of course they just get away from the costume altogether, and he's just like in street clothes the rest of the time. But I digress. That's my thoughts on that. But
it's like me. If I see an artist or a writer, I'm always trying to be there. I'm always trying to get it. So
I love that you're our line to that double A, and you've gotten me to go to so many of those because you've got your ear more to the ground on that, and I forget. Like, I'm like, who drew what? And it sucks because it makes me feel like, oh man, I'm like, am I like a Fairweather fan? Like, I'm like, I just like the good stories. You know what I mean? And like, rarely do I only when I got older did I go back and look at who the writers and artists were.
Yeah. So real quick before we go, I wanted to kind of mention some of the characters that he co-created.
Absolutely.
We mentioned some, this one was kind of surprising. I didn't know. Henry Peter Gyrick. If you're an X-Men fan,
yeah,
that's kind of like a big name.
Gyrick.
A character I fell in love with because of Peacemaker, Adrian Chase, Vigilante.
Yeah, there you go.
We mentioned how he created the Cheetah, the Minerva version from the Wonder Woman movie.
Wonderful.
Cyborg, Deathstroke, Taskmaster. He had a hand in creating Taskmaster. We just saw the Black Widow.
Yeah, the Black Widow. Yeah.
Maestro, Maxima. Nightwing, Nova, Raven, Ares, Starfire, Zeus, Poseidon, Vigilante. He kind of reintroduced the Greek gods that we kind of see.
It's so funny because
now.
Yeah, we tying back to Peacemaker last week's episode, right? But I had even heard he had something small to do with like a resurgence of like at one point of like Quasar. We had got asked about Quasar recently, and we both were like Quasar, and I was like, okay, but it says here, Facebook user, how y'all batch has been doing. I'm guessing that's Tony B, Anthony B.
Yeah, he said it was earlier. It was
okay, awesome, man. Good to see you, bro. Glad you're here. We've been doing good, man. We know you're traveling around. I know you're headed somewhere else soon. I think also cold.
Yeah, crazy. Good luck, man.
Man. Good luck over there. But, man, what an adventure. You're having the adventure of a lifetime.
That's awesome.
Anthony, keep a journal, dude. Write down your adventures. Write down the things you see.
I love what Facebook is, right?
Yeah. No, I know, but you don't want them having your story. When you get done, you sell that book yourself and make some money. But I loved the thing you sent me, the statue that looked like Muhammad Ali. I really dug that. It was really cool. So, yeah, man, make those memories and record that, dude, because you're seeing something a lot of us haven't seen, and we're Americans living in America, and have unfortunately we're in huge ass Texas, and it's hard to get out of this motherfucker.
Yeah, it is.
But AA, dude, to give it back, to end it on the great, again, the incomparable, the amazing artist that is George Pérez, that's given us so much content, so many characters, so much beautiful artwork to look at over the years. Do you have any final thoughts, final words on that?
Yeah, just, it kind of sucks when it's something like that, but you know what? He seems to be
at peace with it?
At peace as much as you can be. Man, he has did everything that he possibly could in the comic realm. He's drawn everyone. He had a great success, great success. It gave him a whole world to live in, so, I mean, I'm just happy that we're that we've read his stuff, that we enjoy his stuff, that we know who he is. This is our realm, so, I mean, it's sad. It sucks. It really does.
It does. Knowing what I know now, I mean, it's like, and I very much wish that, he had not got sick and that he had stayed well and continued to do comics, because the next one he came to that was nearby, I would love to have gone with you and had the same opportunity you did. Yeah. And the things you said that you're happy about, I'm also happy about, but I'm also happy that you got to meet the man. You own his autograph and got to interact with him, and you got to get that great story of it. It wasn't even your turn yet, but you got this great story of hearing another guy ask a question, which happens so many times, right? Like, our favorite story, that Frank Miller, Jim Lee story with Albert. That's just us watching him get his book, not what he wanted signed. I'm like, you have two of the greats. He has a team on that book signed, and I'm like, why are you mad? He's like, I wanted them to sign this one. It's just such a funny story. Man. But yeah, man, it
sucks when one of your heroes. It's like, even though Stanley was like 95, it was still devastating for us to hear. And it's just like,
Plus, he kept coming out in movies. We just thought, we're like, oh man, they've got him they've got him set up to last forever.
I mean, this is news that literally shook the world. Yeah. I mean, it was, the outpouring was immense when it came out.
I mean, I immediately thought when I first read it, I was like, man, and not for purposes of like bolstering my collection, but just, I never had the opportunity to meet him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, even if I didn't have anything to sign. That's what's so cool about
these cons. Most of the time, I go for the writers and the artists. You know that. A lot of times, I really don't even go for celebrities. It's usually wrestlers, writers, and artists. Yeah, that I usually go for. That's the ones I always pop for, and I'm just like, oh man, I told you, I was like, Larry Hama, Dave Wilkins. I'm always like, man, we got to meet these guys, even if you don't have nothing to sign. I'm like, you got to
just shake their hand.
Just shake their hands.
I mean, dude, for me, when I got to meet Larry Hama, I was like, man, I read like this guy's almost like
Yeah.
whole run of Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it was like at a
Just
time
kind of like forget about like G.I. Joe. It's like he had a long ass run on Wolverine.
Yeah, and that's what I knew him from. And I was reading that Wolverine during the time when like the X-Men cartoon was out, like in kind of my, I would say my heyday of comic book reading, because I was like, oh, I'm buying the Wolverine run. I mean, I was buying every single Wolverine book, good or bad, and I was just like, because this was my guy, and I was like, I'm reading them, whatever. And some of the stories I remember just being really into, like they were really great. And I was like, man, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I want to see my name in a comic book one day. Like, I want to write like this guy writes. You know what I mean? What he does with Wolverine. You know that issue 90 where him and Sabretooth fight it out. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Fatal Attractions. I mean, all those Wolverine issues were by Larry Hama, the ones that came out in the Wolverine run of it. So, you know, again, listen, when we met Garth Ennis, you know what I mean? I was man, what a great creator he is.
Yeah, when I told CM, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, you know who's coming?
Yeah, that was like a 100% will be there. Like I would have canceled like anything I had going on that day. I would have canceled work. I would have done whatever to meet Garth. Cause
me and CM both bought like that big package, which wasn't expensive at all. I mean, it was
very
affordable for like 5 issues. You got like autograph.
Yeah, and shit, I was like genuinely starstruck because I wanted to like conversate and say things. I had things in my mind to say, and then I got up to him and I just didn't have them to say. I was like, I just told him, "You're my favorite writer, comic book writer, like ever." I was like, you know, like really, but she was just kind of looking at me like, oh, all right, you know. I should have brought him a pint of Guinness.
See, he's kind of like the kind of guy that's probably like surprised by the code of personality that he has.
Right,
you know?
definitely.
Kind of like where George Pérez was. Trust me, if you would have saw him there, he's at home. He's fine. He loves he probably loved that guy had a big stack of books. You know, he's probably like, hell yeah. You know,
it probably gives him a chance to be like, damn, look at this, look at my work.
Yeah, probably that too. Yeah,
because you know, think about it. When does he go back and look at his own old comics?
Probably
Never.
Probably
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it was so funny too, like listening to this observations, just to hear Liefeld sound like us right now. He sounded like like, man, I just like, you know, he was like naming his man, Avengers 181, his first one on the run, and when he mentioned the Inhumans, I was like, oh man, I wonder if Adam has any of that
when
stuff.
I've heard like Liefeld, some of his stuff that I've heard on podcasts, when he sounds like a fanboy, I've actually bought in comics just because of how he mentions them. How
that's so cool.
You know how he's like he described it so well that you're just like, damn, I want to have that copy.
You know, and I, again, say what you will about Liefeld, because you know, again, I'm love him or hate him. You know what I mean? Like I don't hate him. I mean, he's not my favorite guy either. I like a lot of his work though, and it reminds me of a time. Like it reminds me of the '90s. So you know, but when I hear someone fanboying like that,
and
like I'm like, oh man, you're just like us, and you just really. And he sounded like, you know, he really loved the man a lot, you know. So that's just a testament to his character as well, you know, George Pérez. Anthony says, bro, I saw the Pawn Stars. I think you mean the Pawn Stars store. Cool.
Yeah.
And he says, check your messenger, bro. You and Double A. Okay, we will do, Anthony, for sure, man.
Yeah, and then Rizzo said that he actually sent a comic in through that CG signing I was told you. But,
okay.
But he goes, I was surprised when it was offered, so I didn't care that it was canceled. I felt bad for George and what he's going through. And then he says it's going to get signed by Starlin now, so that's cool too. I unfortunately saw my Paris signed stuff when I was between jobs years ago.
Oh man, Rizzo, that's crazy, bro. But yeah, I know it happened. I mean, hell, it happened to Rob Liefeld. To sign original, to sell original art. You know, it happens to all of us, right? That are in the game. Sometimes we're glad we have that stuff, right? So that we know someone will be sought after. Well, shit, Double A, I don't have anything else.
No, I don't have anything else. I just really wanted to do this episode. I'm just a big fan of his, and I'm glad we're able to do this.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we've only covered, like, if you just focus on the art side, 2 major artists, and it's been, you know, Jack Kirby and George Pérez. So you're in very fine company. You know, that's amazing. And we love you and respect you, Mr. Pérez. You know, we wish you the best on whatever is next to come.
Hey, we're still praying for you.
Yeah, we're still praying for you, man. You're facing it bravely, and I love what your official release said about you using this time to spend with your family, your friends, and you said your fans too. So which we definitely
and like I said, you've been Jim Lee fanboy. Then he invited him to tour the DC building. the main headquarters, and Jim Lee even had like some old comics that he bought from George Pérez and had him sign it, like had George Pérez sign it for him then and there. So I mean,
to me, that's so surreal, right? Like, you know, the guy that's the head of DC,
yeah, like the guy
that's one of the most famous comic book artists of all ever. Time. You know, Jim Lee, but is still at the end of the day a comic book fan.
Yeah,
you
big time.
Like, hey, I got to get my geek.
Like I said, this is kind of like the Jim Lee of the '80s. When you saw George Pérez's name on it, you knew something big was happening. You know, just like Jim Lee. You know, so.
Speaking of him, you know, to sidetrack real quickly, you know, before we end. They did the interviews, like I said, in that podcast about Peacemaker. Yeah, and so, you know, like I said, the first episode has Gunn, and then it goes through the cast, and Cena comes out second to last. And the last episode is James Gunn. But then at the very end of the episode, they go, we have a special message from DC head, you know, Jim Lee. He's obviously reading, but it's like, he's like, thank you for watching The Peacemaker, blah, blah. You know, you fans make DC this and that. I'm like, oh, they brought you in to talk about The Peacemaker? I'm like, talking about going all in on a guy. I was like, damn. Jim Lee probably was like, fucking Peacemaker. Yeah, go ahead and have him do whatever you want or whatever. Like, but now they're like, oh, shit, very bankable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome. But,
well, guys.
Yeah, man, again, you know, real quick, you know, check out Crisis. You can pick that up in almost any store. Pick up a Teen Titans trade. The Infinity Gauntlet series, you know, his Avengers run, you know, check it out. His Wonder Woman run, you know, it's very, very sought after. So
I'm still chasing Titan stuff because I've been so into Nightwing and the Titans. So I'm hoping to
check out the show.
Yeah,
check out the franchise. Check out the cartoons.
I'm hoping to land a lot of good Paris stuff in there when I get it. Guys, don't forget, coming soon, March 12th, we'll be at Rolling Oaks Mall for wrestling there in Rolling Oaks Mall, brought to you by Wrestle Shop. Also, next week we will let you know. Obviously, we're going to make plans for the Batman, whether we do it together or solo, but it may move the day of the show, so that could happen. We'll keep you informed. We apologize for the lateness of today, but it seemed good. People came in and hung out later, so that's fun.
We even got a new one.
The Collecting Weekly folks are here and they say hi. What is up, Collecting Weekly? We saw you guys were live earlier. Is that my good buddy Zach, the Oxfather there? Or I know there are many members of your illustrious crew, Collecting Weekly, so I hope you guys are doing well, hanging out and doing good things with All Things Collectible, man. They talk toys in a way that no one can talk toys. So yeah, Rizzo says, thanks for doing this episode, guys. Absolutely, Rizzo. You know we love our comic book artists and writers.
Yeah, this is our realm. Really,
we felt like we needed to get back to it, too, because we had done so many shows, and when Double A said, what do you think about George Pérez? I said, man, I'm so much happier doing it now. I know the situation is what it is with him, you know, but that we're not doing it, you know, post-mortem, if that would be...
Post-crisis.
Yeah, post-crisis. Yeah, for sure. Very cool. Love that, Double A. I think that's it for announcements. Go to threeleggеdrabbit.com, pick up RTs. You can pick up probably both of these. You can pick up the Invincible Podman, I was going to say, from Invincible Comics and More, creator and artist Chris Rizzo. Amazing artist. Check out some of his other art there for Three-Legged Rabbit. Check out his Alamo City shirt he did for us where we look like the Sin City cover.
The posters are there.
Oh, shoot.
They're like right underneath.
Oh, there they are. Oh, yeah.
It's a really cool design. If you guys know, like the Sin City design for Just Another Saturday Night, this is ours.
I never know which one we're holding. Oh, I happen to get it right. I gave this to each other, but yeah.
But see, it's our Just Another Friday Night.
The double A version.
Chris Rizzo from Invincible Comics.
Which, if you go get the Invincible Podman shirt, we're wearing these shirts in that art. So I love how Rizzo put everyone in his artist design shirts. Yeah. Amazing artist, Chris Rizzo. An amazing group, Invincible Comics and More. So much fun in there. So many great things being sold and for sale in there. You just can't help but drop a dime in there. We've done it. So yeah. But yeah, go check out our buddy Lucky's thread from Now Watch This, his t-shirt company. Guys, go vote on Jerry D's Totally Rad Christmas second annual Raddies contest. We are nominated in several categories, right? Double A.
Yes, me and you also for your guest appearances.
And even contributors to our show. The guys from Now Watch This are nominated. Best Beard. We're rooting for Lucky for Best Beard.
Sam is actually like there's a few episodes where he's nominated twice.
I'm in Best Food for the Pizza Hut episode.
Yeah, there's like Best Toy episode.
Yeah, we're in the Best Toy
twice, and then you're like in another.
Well, the Best Toy we're in together because it's Thundercats and Robotech.
And then there's another one where it's like the Pizza Hut one, I think, and the wrestling one, or the wrestling and the Batman.
The wrestling and the Batman one. I was part of two ensembles.
Yeah,
they were really great, and I liked them both. But in the Batman one, I'm with Joe, so I figure if me and Joe win that one together, we get a Ratty together.
And then our friend too, Roxanne, is nominated too.
Yeah, she did a Strawberry Shortcake episode. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and all great nominees, all great candidates.
Cool. It's a little cool. It's the second annual, so it's kind of cool.
I don't think Jerry has an actual award, but in our minds, we're putting it up on.
But it's cool that he even, he has, takes the time to even do that.
He said that the first episode of the Raddies, the first annual Raddies, he said the episode he had to edit it, and he said that it was like a week of him editing. Oof. Poor guy. That's
what I'm saying. For him to do all this.
I tell these guys that edit their podcasts, I said, man, I don't envy y'all. I said, I just go live, and if it all goes haywire, fuck it. We're like, fuck. Well, we tried. You know what I mean? So it's just part of it. You know what I mean? But I think that's it, man. Also, go check out Three-Legged Rabbit and if you're a wrestling fan and an old video game fan, you got to get the this one right here, the Pro Podcasting, JAFN, CM Chuck, and Double A hosting. Just another Friday night shirt. Look at it. Look at us there. I feel like, that guy is getting a back suplex, right? So we can't wait to wear this at Oscar's show, man, and show that off. But other than that, we'll keep you guys posted about next week. Obviously, next week, Friday is the Batman. Well, it'll be out Thursday. Yeah. We know it comes out a day early, so we definitely are planning to see it. We just haven't figured out how and when yet. For Spider-Man, we obviously moved the show because Double A went Thursday, and I went Friday, so we did it on... Did we do it on Wednesday?
We did. We did someday.
Or was that the late one that came late? I don't even remember.
It was pretty late,
yeah. So, either way, we'll work it out. We'll work it out, and we'll let you guys know. Other than that?
No, that's it. We're good. Just thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, George Pérez.
Yeah, George Pérez, thank you for everything, sir. Stay strong, stay fighting, and just live in every moment, man. Doing what we say at the end of every show. Guys, be like George Pérez, man. Seize the day.
Yep.
Every day is another chance, another opportunity to do something that you've wanted to do, that you've hoped to do, that you've dreamed to do. This man wanted to draw the Justice League. This man wanted to draw as many characters as he possibly could. And eventually he drew the Justice League versus the Avengers. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being a comic book artist, a comic book writer, comic book guy?
Be the guy to be in that, that rivalry? Yeah.
I mean, when people say, who are the two biggest comic book teams of all time? I mean, you might want to say the X-Men, but
now for sure.
But now for sure, it's the Avengers, and then it's the Justice League, and then it's the X-Men. I mean, that's the truth. And then it's probably the Teen Titans. If you think about it, so that would probably be the big four of teams. If there was a Mount Rushmore of teams, that might be it right there. I think I just made the Mount Rushmore of superhero comic book teams. So, and this man had a hand in drawing them all at one time, which is a huge
drawing and creating some of them. So
he surely sees the day, no doubt. And the other thing is, guys, is you got to do whatever it takes. George Pérez was given an option to continue chemotherapy, but it may have made the last bit of his life not as enjoyable and not able to spend as much time with his family and his friends and his fans, as he said. So he definitely did choose to do whatever it takes and say he was going to let nature take its course. Amazing bravery right there, right? You know what I mean? Some people just can't let go and fight to the very last end. There's nothing wrong with that either. And some people say, you know what, I'm going to do this my way and going to go out on my terms, which clearly he's doing. So, guys, be like George Pérez. Seize the day. Do whatever it takes. For just another Friday night, I'm CM Chuck.
Double A.
And we'll see you guys next Friday night. Good night.
Good night.
Or